Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this October 28th meeting of the Tallahassee City Commission. For those who are willing and able, please stand for the invocation followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Dear God, thank you for the opportunity to celebrate the spirit of togetherness in our community at the 11th Annual Mayor's Race, Culture, and Human Relations Summit held earlier this week. We give thanks for the hardworking individuals whose efforts ensure that open communication, personal responsibility, and accountability aid in moving Tallahassee forward. Guide our leaders tonight as they direct the business of the day. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right. Assistant City Manager Fernandez, are there any agenda modifications?
Yes, sir. Earlier today, a mod went out. A modification went out, adding item 5.04, which is a presentation of a proclamation for Tallahassee Longhorn Steakhouse as part of Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and 5.05, which is a recognition of the Neighborhood Leadership Academy.
Awesome. We'll begin with proclamations. All right. We'll begin by inviting forward our Chief of Fire, Long Gaines, or what's your rapper name? G-Money. G-Money. And his, what was yours?
T-Wayne.
And T-Wayne. Seen these guys. They were. Can someone work on the mics? Could you please? Oh, y'all doing it tonight? Okay, great. For a very, very special presentation with regard to the United Way. And do we want to invite staff forward? All right. If those with Live United shirts could come on up and join us, the folks who are leading the city's effort, we'd appreciate it.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is T. Wayne at night, Wayne Tutter during the day, and I'm very honored to be co-chair with Chief Gaines on the City of Tallahassee's United Way efforts this year. What you see is the team that we have assembled, or the other departments throughout the city, to meet our goal this year. Which is no easy task for us. We have set a goal of $233,800. So that's a lot of effort for the City of Tallahassee to put in to give back to our community. We're proud to be a part of it. And as you see events and creative opportunities to participate, we hope you just join right in and help us accomplish our goal, what we're trying to achieve this year. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Chief Gaines.
Good evening. Thank you for inviting us, Mayor and Commissioners, City Managers. First of all, I want to say this was a great opportunity to get to work with extraordinary people that are members of the City of Tallahassee family. And we couldn't have, trust me, we couldn't have done this without their help. But just a little history before we do this. We did the video. We wanted to do something different. How can we get people excited and engaged in this process? And so we came up with an idea. I put it to one of the guys on the department. I said, hey, I need you to do me a favor and write a song for United Way. And from there, it kind of grew into a video and the message that we put people or sent out with people to say, hey, get excited. We've had a couple opportunities to appear in costume, which we will not tonight. But we have put it out to any of the departments that would like us to come out and perform a song. We've done that. And all I ask is you keep it short because the costume, the wig in particular that I wear is very hot. Okay, so with that, we're going to go ahead and present the video and Live United. Enjoy.
Live the United united way. Live united. Live the united way. Live united. Live the united way.
Give it up again for these folks. They have brought incredible energy to this.
To our visitors from Indonesia, what that's all about.
Yeah, we will. We'll need to do that. So when they performed this the day of, it was difficult to focus on the background dancers because, you know, Wayne and the chief looked so interesting. But I didn't catch that Reverend Pastor Maldonado had those kinds of moves. Kind of moves, man. Well done. Well done. You get the third MVP in that video. Thank you for that. I now want to invite forward our City Utilities Department. So if you're here with the City Utilities, please join me up here. Mike Tadros and staff, Reese Goge, Reginald Ofwani, Terry Lowe, Sandra Manning. And we'll begin with the proclamation. And it reads, whereas the City of Tallahassee Utilities strives to provide excellent services to support a high quality of life for our community. And 2015 marks the city's 113th year of providing reliable utilities. That's incredible. Whereas each October, the nation celebrates Public Natural Gas Week. And whereas natural gas is a clean, cost-effective, and domestically produced fuel, which helps generate our electricity and reduces our reliance on foreign energy. And whereas the city provides natural gas services to approximately 30,000 businesses and households in Tallahassee, as well as in Leon, Wakulla, and Gadsden counties. And whereas Tallahassee's natural gas utility has been nationally recognized for system integrity, excellence in operation, and safety, and whereas the natural gas utility has consistently maintained an excellent compliance record in the face of increasing state and federal regulatory requirements. And whereas the natural gas utility and city utilities staff are setting the standard of excellence by practicing teamwork and empowering employees to embrace innovation to drive performance improvements. And whereas Advanced Technology Solutions provides best-in-class approaches to provide faster, better, smarter services for customers. And whereas in 2015, the city was awarded the prestigious Governor's Sterling Award, which is Florida's highest achievement among both public and private entities in the performance and organizational excellence. And whereas Florida Governor's Sterling Award recipients are considered role models by which other public and private organizations throughout the state can evaluate themselves. Now, therefore, I, Andrew Gillum, by the authority vested in me as the mayor of the city of Tallahassee, do hereby proclaim October 4th through 10th, 2015 as Public Natural Gas Week and recognize your own utilities as a valuable and vital community asset. I know that we passed this particular period, the October 4th through 10th, but on that meeting we had a lot going on. But just want to salute this amazing team for what they do to provide very oftentimes uninterrupted public utilities to our important customers. So with that, Mr. Tadros, please help me recognize our city's utility.
Thank you, Mayor. It's really an honor to receive this proclamation on behalf of the gas utility and underground utility. And let me take a few seconds to introduce the staff with me today. I have Steve Mayfield, he's the manager of the gas utility, Vicky O'Neill, Kirk Levine, and Paul Sheng. I want to thank them for their hard work, dedication, and passion. As they've been recognized nationally to be the best public gas system in the nation. Again, let me say that the best gas system in the nation. And also, I'm very privileged to have the utility managers with me. With them being with me at the podium speaks volume with who we are. We work with the utilities without borders. We leverage our strengths to deal with our challenges, and there are many of them. But in closing, I want to thank you and thank all the commission, the city manager, and the appointed officials for your continued support and your drive for us to set the standard for excellence when it comes to serve this community. Thank you very much.
Thank you all. Now I'd like to invite forward Ms. Cynthia Barber, who will help welcome some ICMA professional fellows who are visiting with us from Malaysia and Indonesia. I had the pleasure of meeting these two gentlemen. Cynthia, I'd love for you to come forward and tell the community a little bit more about this program. I also see that y'all are wearing your city pins on your lapel. They look good.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Commissioners, and appointed officials. It is certainly my pleasure to introduce two international visitors that we have with the City of Tallahassee this fall, Iman Fitrianto and Mr. Edmund Lau. They are visitors who come to us through the Professional Fellows Program, a partnership between the International City County Managers Association and the U.S. Department of State. This year's program is drawing fellows from the Young Southeast Asian Leaders Initiative. Mr. Fitrianto is from Indonesia. Will you wave? Wave? Yeah. He's from Indonesia, where he is a planner for the Ministry of Marine Affairs and Fisheries. The charge to the ministry is to manage, secure, and sustainably utilize Indonesia's coastal and marine natural resources. Mr. Lau, will you wave? Is a program manager for Reef Check Malaysia, is part of the Reef Check Worldwide, which is a nonprofit organization created to raise awareness on the importance of and threats to coral reefs, as well as to protect, restore, and revive them. They're here in Tallahassee to learn as many aspects of sustainability as possible, including sustainable energy, community engagement, and environmental justice. Will you please join me in welcoming Mr. Lau and Mr. Fitrianto to Tallahassee?
I would like to say thank you to the citizen of City of Tallahassee and also to the mayor and also all the commissioner to having us here. We are very happy to learn anything from you here. Thank you very much.
No, I didn't. Well, wait a minute. Yes, I did.
Thank y'all again and welcome. He said he's willing to learn anything. I would adjust his statement. Only the productive habits do we want you to take back with you. I'd now like to welcome my colleague, Commissioner Curtis Richardson, down to read a proclamation for Tallahassee Longhorn Steakhouse as part of the Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Commissioner Richardson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening. It is certainly my honor to read this proclamation designating on behalf of the mayor and our city commission and appointed officials, designating the month of October as Domestic Violence Awareness Month. We're a little late in the month getting this done, but it certainly is noteworthy that we take the time to recognize this very important issue in our community, those that are working feverishly to address it. I'd like to invite Mr. Preston Colangio, who is the manager of the Longhorn Steakhouse here in Tallahassee, and his family, if they would come forward. Longhorn Steakhouse is a member of the Darden family of restaurants. And Mr. Colangio and his staff at Longhorn have gone above and beyond to support Ms. Sandra Collins and her outfit in Tallahassee through the Handle Care Dolls initiative to address the scourge of domestic violence in our community. Sandra, I'd like to ask if you would come forward. Oh, okay. Is this one not working? Oh. All right. If you would come forward and be a part of the presentation as well. And we also have some other guests, and we'll invite them to come when we do the picture taking so that you all will be a part of that. So with that, let me read the proclamation and present it to Mr. Colangio on behalf of Darden Restaurants. Whereas all people have the fundamental right to live a life free from violence, and whereas domestic violence is a violation of humanity, security, personal integrity, and equal participation in the life of the community, and whereas 1 in 3 women and 1 in 4 men have been victims of physical violence by an intimate partner within their lifetime, and nearly 4 million children are at risk of experiencing domestic violence, and whereas domestic violence reaches across all racial, economic, religious, and social barriers and is fostered by both historical and ongoing inequalities, and whereas domestic violence devastates our families, children, friends, co-workers, and neighbors throughout Tallahassee, and whereas survivors of domestic violence deserve justice, empowerment, and support in order to heal and rebuild their lives, and whereas our community must reinforce our commitment to increasing the response to domestic violence while ensuring safety for victims. And whereas Darden Restaurants Tallahassee Longhorn Steakhouse has donated food, provided support, and other valuable services to survivors and their families, now therefore be it resolved, in recognition of the important community role Tallahassee Longhorn Steakhouse has taken on, that I, Andrew D. Gillum, on behalf of the mayor, by authority vested in me as mayor of the city of Tallahassee, do hereby proclaim the month of October 2015 as Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and urge all citizens to model the same efforts of Tallahassee Longhorn Steakhouse and to work toward the elimination of personal and institutional violence against women, children, and men. Mr. Colangio, if you would accept this proclamation on behalf of the Darden family of restaurants and Tallahassee Longhorn Steakhouse.
Thank you very much. Just a couple of the individuals that I've tried to help, the pretty girls over there, the cute ones in the little cheerleader outfits, Kama. But this is a noble cause, as you can see. I have 3 beautiful women in my life, and that's just part of the reason why I do this. But I love working for a company that allows and affords me the opportunity to help the community and be responsible in the community. So it's really what it's about. So if you have the ability to help, you need to help.
Nice. Nice.
I
just want to thank Preston's boss from Darden Corporation for being here. She came all the way to Tallahassee to be here today, and I just want to thank everyone that continue to support. So when you go by Longhorn, if you just say, hey, tell Mr. Preston, we stop by because he give food, whether it's late at night, 11 o'clock at night, someone has been abused, someone is homeless. Even at the place where I work, I called him, and he said, what do they need? He don't say come and get French fries and burgers. He fixed food out the menu. And that's one of the things. He just don't fix a brown bag and say go. He makes sure they have a hot meal, and he has done this for us for the last 3 years, and he has not asked us for anything. And I want to thank him and thank you all, and to continue to support Longhorn Steakhouse and Darden Corporations.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
All right, perfect. We have a recognition of the Neighborhood Leadership Academy Commissioners, and we're going to do that a little bit later prior to us breaking for dinner. All right. We're now on to citizens for input on agenda items. Treasurer Clerk.
Mayor, we do have speakers tonight. The first will be Rodney Atherton, and I'll ask speakers to come to the podium on their left, my right, and each speaker will have 3 minutes for his or her remarks. If you'll give your name and address for the record, we will appreciate it. I'll let you know when your 3 minutes have expired, and there's also a light to the left of the podium that you'll see change colors for you. Rodney Atherton, and then the next speaker will be Scott Atherton.
Well, I'm here to speak about the proposed restrictions on segways.
Could you provide your name and address, please?
Rodney Atherton at 521 McDaniel Street, Lafayette Park neighborhood, downtown.
Thank you.
Midtown. Some of you might recognize me. I'm the Segway guy. If you've seen somebody riding around downtown on Segway, that's me. The picture in the paper this morning was a man rides a Segway in Tallahassee. Well, that was me. I'm the man.
I didn't recognize you without your helmet.
Right, yeah, without the helmet, wouldn't recognize. Can't tell that I don't have hair when I have the helmet on. I've got over 17,000 miles on that Segway now. Most of it is downtown Tallahassee, through the parks, city sidewalks, and all that. And that's over 10 years of commuting back and forth to work. I go home at lunch, not because I need to go home at lunch, but because it's another chance to ride the Segway. It's still fun. And it doesn't seem to bother anybody. So I feel free and I go ahead. I've been in crowds downtown get-downs, in parades, and in the crowds around parades. Events in the Capitol courtyard, shoulder to shoulder. I'm just like another person on foot. I can stand still on the Segway, can pivot in place on it, can back up a little if I need to, just like a person on foot. So I can't remember ever getting in anybody's way or bumping into anybody, or a shoulder might have rubbed somebody, just like somebody walking. Somebody next, nothing more than that. So I was really surprised when I saw that there was consideration for maybe restricting the Segways. In my opinion, it's the type of thing that should be encouraged rather than restricted, because it's like an attraction. It adds interest to downtown Tallahassee. It makes it, just something more exciting about the place, and it makes it fun. So there's nothing dangerous about it from my experience, 17,000 miles of experience, especially when you compare it to bicycles, which it stops a lot quicker than a bike. And you don't mind stopping on a Segway because you don't have to go to all the trouble to try to start back up again and get going again. With a bicycle, you're kind of hesitant to slow down because you have to work to speed back up. With Segway, just lean back a little bit and you stop. I mean, even if you're not expecting somebody to step in front of you, your first reaction is, whoa. And when you lean back, that just stops it naturally without having to think about stopping. It just does. And even if you were to run into somebody, you kind of bounce off of them, because if you were to hit somebody, it would kind of lean you back a little bit and you'd go the other way. So you wouldn't run anybody over. You'd bounce off of them if you were to run into somebody. But anyway, that's my experience, and I would think we'd want to encourage segways rather than restricting them. Keep Tallahassee interesting.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Scott Atherton, followed by Tim Nettles. Each of them also on the same item 1302.
Hello. My name is Scott Atherton, and I live at 817 Edgewood Street here in Tallahassee, Florida. And I'd like to address the issue of segways as well. I've had the pleasure of leading Segway tours for years now, first with Segway of Central Florida in Mount Dora. I have the T-shirt on right now. And now with Tallahassee Segway Tours with Tim Nettles. In my experience, segways are a very safe mode of transportation. Official studies have even been done which have shown them to be safer than bicycles because of their zero turn radius, ability to operate at slow speeds, and fast stopping abilities, as Rodney was talking about. And my experiences during the tours have shown all of this to be true. When I'm leading tours, I'm always greeted with smiles and waves and cheers of Segway as we pass, and I really want to be able to share the joy of Segway with as many people as I can. By allowing Segways to operate in our local parks, we can vitalize Tallahassee's tourism industry, and we can bring smiles to the faces and those of our local tourists, our local community. And I'd like to close with a short quote from Dave Holzoffel, who runs the Mount Dora Segway Tours. And he says, "Our Mount Dora Segway Tour has been operating here since 2006 and runs through 4 city parks, along waterfront wooden boardwalks, and on the street, sidewalks, and bike paths, all in accordance with Florida statutes. The tours operate 7 days a week, 3 times a day, without hindrance to pedestrians or vehicular traffic." Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Tim Nettles, followed by Ron Goldstein.
Thank you. I'm Tim Nettles, 4786 High Grove Road here in Tallahassee, and I'm the owner of Tallahassee Segway Tours. Just to be clear, we're doing guided tours of Tallahassee on Segways. We're not doing Segway rentals. We're all under controlled groups of no more than seven participants right now. That's I agree with the 2 speakers here. That's very safe activity. It's very controlled. We go through a strict training process, which includes a Segway-produced video outlining all the operational procedures of operating, getting on, getting off, around obstacles. So it's about a 14-minute video everybody goes through. It's a clean, quiet, tourism-based activity, which obviously brings people to town, and they may stay and have a meal, stay overnight. Just gives them one more thing to do here in Tallahassee. We can regulate the speed of segways. We have I brought in, this is the key to a Segway, and we hold these in the tour guide holds these, and we can regulate how fast a Segway can go before the tour begins. We can keep it down at 8 miles an hour, whatever we choose to keep it safe. We are fully insured. We do hands-on training. Helmets are required for all participants. You must display competency to ride. We can refuse the right to let somebody go if we feel like they're unsafe. We yield to pedestrians. Operates very safely at low speeds, which is different than a bike might. As you're in a tight crowd, you can slow down to 1-2 miles an hour very safely without having to dismount and without having to you can stop. You can come to a complete controlled stop. I spoke to Mount Dora, and their Parks and Rec department really encourages the use of segways. It brings people to their parks, which has increased the activities in the parks. And he would like to speak with any of you that are interested. And with that, I will yield. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Next speaker, Mayor, is Ron Goldstein, followed by Mike Goldstein, also on item 1302.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Ryan Goldstein with Capital City Pedicabs. We've been in Tallahassee with the pedicab business for about 3 years now in February, and we just seek your support of the option, if it's the will of the commission, to look at Florida statutes, or if deemed unnecessary, let us continue to operate as we've operated. I yield the rest of my time to Mike Goldstein. Thank you.
Thank you.
After Mike Goldstein, Jared Willis will be the next speaker.
Mike Goldstein, 3416 Clifton Drive. Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, Mr. City Manager. I'm a Capital City Pedicabs Creative Services Director. I want to thank you all for getting us to this point. First of all, it's been a long process, and I appreciate you guys being patient with us for over these last 6 months. Our pedicabs are bicycles on a trike frame with a carriage built in, so it's not your typical bike with a tandem. We actually got them manufactured, sent to us with the proper equipment to be safe, and that's our ultimate goal with safety. We hope to define the Tallahassee experience with pedicabs and help that enhance the whole overall experience, not just the parks. It's a unique green transportation. It really helps people get around on tours, weddings, birthdays, anything you can think of that could really spice it up to do something different for a date night even. It's just something different. And with the parks, that really help out with the new Edison that opened up, and just in general. It's a matter of just not just going around the park, but getting into the actual property to get that extra oomph, the pizzazz for the tour. Our drivers are properly trained. We don't just throw anyone on the bike. We're properly insured, so we don't just we like to sleep better at night by having the insurance, because not everyone in the industry does that. So it's just something different to keep into consideration, because it's just not your typical company when it comes to industry standards or pedicabs. The drivers also serve as ambassadors to the city, so not just representing a company, but they do show off what the city has to offer. So it is just something that really helps to bring out both parties. Regarding the item itself, if the commission does deem it necessary to regulate, we do, like Ron said, want to encourage option 3 to refer to the state statutes. We've been doing that since day one, so there's really, up until now, there's been no need for regulation itself. It's just a matter of referring to the state. In conclusion, I want to personally invite you all to hop on if you haven't yet, because it's really something different to experience. I know Segways are good too, so it's just a matter of combining the two to make a really great experience out of it overall. And if you want to ask any questions, I can take those as well. But if not, that's all I got for you.
Thank you.
All right.
Jared Willis.
Jared Willis, 820 East Park Avenue. I'm coming to you as the president of the Downtown Business Association, and on behalf of the businesses and the organizations that make up our association, I want to encourage you to go with option 3 as well on item 13.02. Just as I've been working with the downtown businesses, I've had the opportunity to meet Ron and work with Capital City Pedicabs, and like Mike said, I think he said it best. They're not a typical company, and they really believe in Tallahassee. They really believe in making downtown better, and they're an asset. And I think we should encourage businesses like that and not cripple them with further regulation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, that's the last speaker for this portion of the meeting. I do want to point out for our speakers that we do have a public hearing later, so people who want to speak on those items will speak during the public hearing. And then at the end of the meeting, people who wish to speak on items that are not on our agenda, unagended items, have that opportunity. I did have a speaker from Cosima, Boston, who'd indicated an interest in speaking on presentations, but as you're aware, presentations are an item that are not an item for public input, so we'll take those remarks at the unagended time.
Great. Thank you. Commissioners, we are now going to hear from City Commission appointed boards and committees. I want to invite forward Ms. Brenda Williams, the Executive Director of the Tallahassee Housing Authority. Ms. Williams.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Ms. Williams.
My name is Brenda Williams, and I am the Executive Director of the Tallahassee Housing Authority. And first of all, I want to begin by thanking you for the opportunity to make a presentation today. I have a 2-part presentation. The first part will cover programs that are offered by the Housing Authority. And then the second part of the presentation will provide you with an update on where we are with the redevelopment of the Orange Avenue property. To begin with, our mission statement is to maintain and provide quality, affordable housing, facilitate a network of supportive services to enhance the quality of life for our residents, and we are committed to quality services and will provide a professional atmosphere to our employees, partners, and the greater Tallahassee constituency. We are governed by a 7-member board. The board is appointed by the mayor and confirmed by the city commission. Programs managed by the Housing Authority include a public housing program, housing choice voucher program, housing self-sufficiency, resident opportunities for self-sufficiency, and a capital fund program. Our annual operating budget is approximately $21 million per year, and we have a staff of approximately 60 employees. The Housing Choice Voucher Program consists of 2,100 vouchers, which serves a population of 6,019, and we have a waiting list of 1,215 applicants. Our public housing program, we own and manage 629 apartments. The population served is 1,648. We have a waiting list of 2,293 applicants. We have 3 public housing sites. Springfield Apartments, located at 1700 Joe Louis Street. Orange Avenue Apartments at 2017 Country Club Drive. Pinewood Apartments at 2940 Grady Road. And we also manage 43 single-family scattered site homes that are scattered out throughout the city of Tallahassee. We also own a tax credit property. It's Goodbread Hills, formerly known as Ebony Gardens. Mm-hmm. The public housing program is to provide low-income housing for families and individuals, and the rent is based on the family's income, normally 30% minus any deductions. This is a picture of the apartments at Orange Avenue. At each site, we also have a community center, Oliver Hill Community Center at Orange Avenue Apartments. And then Springfield Apartments, we also have a community center there, as well as Pinewood Apartments, located at 2940 Grady Road, which is also where our main office is located. We also have a partnership with the Bond Community Health Center to provide primary care services to our residents, and we have a facility located at the Springfield Apartments on Joe Louis Street. We manage a resident opportunities for self-sufficiency program. This program links residents with training opportunities, job placement organizations, and local employers. We also manage a ROS program, is Resident Opportunities for Self-Sufficiency program, where we hire a service coordinator that also matches up residents with programs in the community that support self-sufficiency. At our community centers, we are currently in discussions with the Leon County School System to provide an after-school program at all 3 of our public housing sites. All 3 of the community centers also house a computer lab, which consists of about 15 computers at each center. We also have a partnership with Good Guys Mentoring, sponsored by Goodwill Industries. We have a partnership with FAMU, Recreational Center for a Soccer League, which is a year-round soccer league. We provide nutrition classes. We have Second Harvest food distribution at each one of our sites, and we also provide certified nursing assistant classes. Moving on to the Orange Avenue redevelopment. About a year ago, the Housing Authority hired a development company out of Malta, New Jersey. The name of the company is the Michaels Organization. This organization is well known for redeveloping public housing properties into mixed income communities. Since they've been hired, we have submitted several applications to the Florida Housing Finance Corporation. Several times a year, the state will offer an opportunity for applications for low-income housing tax credits. Low-income housing tax credits are traditionally used to redevelop public housing properties. And to talk to you more about what we're doing, I've invited Vice President of Michael's organization here to give you more information. His name is Jorge Aguirre. Jorge? Okay.
Good afternoon, Commissioners and attendees. My name is Jorge Aguirre. I'm a Vice President of Development for the Michaels Organization. As Brenda mentioned, we're based in Marlton, New Jersey. I was based in Florida for many years in Orlando. We're consolidating our southeast operations in Atlanta, so I'm currently based out of Atlanta, where we operate all of our developments from the Carolinas down to Florida out of a single office. Michaels is one of the largest owners and developers of affordable housing in the country. We develop on average about 3,000 units per year over the past 5 years, operating in 37 states and the U.S. Virgin Islands. A lot of what we do over the past 15 years, pretty much exclusively, what we've been doing is public housing redevelopment, so partnerships with local housing authorities to redevelop properties. We've had such partnerships in Tampa, Sarasota, Montgomery, Alabama, Meridian, Mississippi, currently with the city of Atlanta as well, in Louisiana as well. So we do this well, and we enjoy working with our partners. As Brenda mentioned, we were engaged about a year ago, and we've been continuing to try to secure tax credits from Florida Housing Finance Corporation to finance a redevelopment of the Orange Avenue property. A couple of the challenges that we have with the Orange Avenue property is, first of all, topography. There's a lot of storm drainage issues on the property. There are a lot of underground utility issues with the property, and it's a function, those particularly are a function of the age. Orange Avenue Apartments was built in phases between 1972 and 1973. Taking a little bit of a step back to those very structural issues, I will call them, we have another thing. These are units from the 1970s. The floor plans, the amenities just don't respond to what the market requires or desires in today's environment. So ideally, our proposal is to redevelop the property in 4 phases. If the funding permits, all 4 phases would be new construction. At least one of the 4 phases would be age-restricted to 55 and over individuals, and the other 3 phases would serve families or a combination of age-restricted and family units. Ultimately, we think we can do up to 200 units, so we would do a 1-for-1 replacement once all phases are done, or at least that's our goal. However, we do want to do a mixed income property when it's all said and done. So all 4 phases would be mixed income, so it's not all public housing residents in one property. I will note that as we engage in the redevelopment, all of the existing residents would be offered relocation benefits, and they would be offered housing assistance and priority to come back to that site as well. But for those who choose or are not able to come back to the site, they will receive assistance. So we're not kicking anybody out on the street, if you will. We, as Brenda mentioned, we play the lottery with Florida Housing Finance Corporation. We would like to receive we would like to get 9%, what is known as a low-income housing tax credit. We would take those credits, sell those to investors to generate the equity to maintain affordable rents in the redeveloped properties. The reason we want that very, very competitive 9% credit, as it's called, is because that is the most effective financing mechanism for affordable housing. Most of the other programs that we have access to would still leave gaps in the millions of dollars for each one of these phases. If we're able to get the 9% credit, we would minimize those gaps significantly, and it would go a long ways in helping this redevelopment become a reality. However, we are usually up against funding cycles where there's 10 applications for every one application that can get funded, and they are based on a lottery. So it has been very competitive. We continue to monitor that process. Florida Housing is thinking of new ways to allocate their funding that we monitor and that we share with staff, and we've been working closely with Commissioner Richardson to try to get ahead of the game on some changes we anticipate Florida Housing will be making. But in short, what we would like to do, as I mentioned, is redevelop the property into 4 phases and recreate a mixed-income community and work with the city, Commissioner Richardson, the city staff, the rest of the commission. Would like to work to make this one of the cornerstones of the redevelopment of the larger area, which I know it's a priority in City Hall right now to have some impact on the south side. That's essentially what we're trying to do. And thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Questions or comments, Commissioner Richardson?
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, did you want to continue your presentation, Brenda, or were you done?
Thank you, Brenda.
Yeah, as Jorge mentioned, I have been working with Brenda, I guess, for several months now. I had an opportunity to travel with them to Tampa to see what they're doing in Tampa and have done. Amazing. I mean, if we can replicate even to any degree what they've done in Tampa, it will put us ahead of the game. Their public housing is indistinguishable from housing in the general area. In many areas, it even fits the architecture of the general community. And we would go from one side of the street to the other, and I would have to ask if we were still within the housing project, and often we were not. And I think that what we're trying, Brenda's vision, and let me tell you, we really have a jewel in Brenda, and I learned that during that Tampa trip. She is very well known and respected in the housing community. If you will. They spoke very highly of her and her background in housing, and so we're very lucky to have her here in Tallahassee. But I think what we're trying to accomplish with the Orange Avenue apartments, and I was hoping that you would have shown some of the pictures. It is, I guess the strongest word I could use is appalling, the conditions that people are living in those apartments. They weren't built with air conditioning, and so units have been put in, but there are no vents that go up to the second story in the two-story apartments. There are no vents to catch the grease and other smoke and whatever else comes off of food that's being prepared. They're small. There really is a lot that needs to be. Of course, they don't lend themselves to the latest in technology. Of course, as Brenda mentioned, there are lots of infrastructure problems, underground utilities, water and sewage in particular. Those aging pipes are rusting and starting to burst. There's constant sewage problems, and the list just goes on. And so it really is important. And this could be, as Brenda mentioned, and Jorge, a cornerstone to what we're trying to accomplish in the South City area. because this type of housing, and it would be mixed-use housing, not just the low-income housing as it is today, will go a long ways to not only providing the kind of housing that we seek for our residents, but it will also encourage commercial development along that corridor, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners. And one of the things that we haven't talked about a lot, but we did have some discussion about it down in Tampa, is a partnership with the VA to provide veterans housing to accommodate the VA clinic that will be coming online that's 1 mile from this Orange Avenue complex. There will be an opportunity to develop some veterans housing for families that are coming to Tallahassee to go to that clinic for services. So there's lots of opportunity, and of course it all comes down to funding. And I know that Brenda has been working diligently to try to acquire that state funding, and there may be some other opportunities. We're going to bring an option to the CRA board to make our housing authority more competitive in the financing world, if you will. We'll be bringing that at one of our upcoming meetings as well. But this is, I'm just real excited about what's happening here, because this alone could transform that segment of the south side of Tallahassee and create so many other opportunities. So Brenda, thank you for your vision and what you all are doing to make this happen. And I'm sure that, Mr. Mayor, in whatever way the city can assist, that we'll be a partner in those efforts.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Ziffer.
Brenda, I want to echo everything Commissioner Richardson said. You and I met a couple of weeks ago, and clearly your knowledge, your skills, your background are exactly what we need here. So thank you for coming here from where you were, from New Orleans, to be with us here to help us through this. I couldn't agree more with what Commissioner Richardson said about the situation and the conditions of the housing that we currently have on Orange Avenue. And yet, when you talk with individuals that live there, they still have a sense of pride.
Yes.
They do, which makes it even more imperative for us to try to find a way to improve the housing. And I know there are a lot of obstacles. Clearly, financing is one. As you mentioned, the infrastructure clearly has some issues with underground utilities and stormwater and all sorts of other issues. I would really like us to give a sign of approval to Commissioner Richardson to look broader. In other words, okay, there's a lot of area down there that needs improvement, down in our area in our south side that needs improvement. Maybe there's another area we should be doing other housing. I don't know that.
Well, matter of fact, we are looking at Appalachia Ridge, which is adjacent to Orange Avenue Apartments. There are several abandoned homes. We would like to go in, acquire those homes, rehab them, and make them available for home ownership opportunities. Not only adjacent to Orange Avenue, but on the other side behind Orange Avenue on Putnam and back in that area, you've got several vacant, abandoned homes that we would like to acquire as part of a overall redevelopment area, effort for that neighborhood.
I think, and I'm not terribly familiar with the effort, but in this Orlando area, the Paramore project, which includes redevelopment of where the old arena was, and they are doing mixed use and they're doing mixed income, and as I recall, a community schools going in there. And I'm not sure where their financing came from, but it seemed to me they were very creative. So I'd really like for us as a city, while we don't fund the Tallahassee Housing Authority, and I'm not suggesting we put a number on that, but I think we need to step up and try to be a greater partner, because something has to happen. And we need to do something, and I think we should take greater responsibility for doing that and look at a larger area and look at this far broader, because One of the things that clearly I've been working on, we've been talking about a community school where we're talking about food and we talk about education, healthcare, and we talk about all those other things. Housing is the very beginning. And so if we want to improve people's lives, it starts with housing. So I want to thank you, but I'm going to ask Commissioner Richardson, I want this commission, let's be bold, let's think big. It doesn't mean we have to do it, but you want to know something? Let's see if there are other ways we can accomplish this. And I'm not talking about us doing a lot of financing, but if we look at this more holistically, maybe there are other ways we can try to get this done. That's all.
Okay. Commissioner.
Thank you, Commissioner.
But Brenda, we want to obviously thank you for your time, for your work. We don't need Tampa to validate what we know we have in you. You're a jewel, and we're thankful for your work and for your effort. And here, Commissioner Ziffer, with regard to your comments to Commissioner Richardson, and maybe it's worth us also imploring our legislative team to be watchful for these kinds of opportunities throughout the legislative session. Who knows what can and will happen there, but clearly those low-income tax credits, you've got to get the legislature to do what they need to do in order to penetrate that process. So
a special appropriation would be nice.
Well, that would be nice on a lot of levels. Yeah, indeed. So without further comments, Commissioners, thank you, and Brenda, thank you. Jorge, thank you as well for your time and for your presentation. Commissioners, moving right along, I want to quickly, I'm not sure how long she'll be in the chamber, but I want to recognize real quick Tamika Archie-Smith, who we hired on to direct Palmer Monroe Teen Center, and then she went over and played a very important interim role for our larger Parks Department. Would love for you to stand where you are so that we can acknowledge you and thank you. She's going to be leaving the city to spend some time with her family, and thank you for your service to us. I know Charla Lucas, who we all will remember from being the dedicated staffer at Cascades Park for all Cascades Park's events. She's gotten a promotion and is, well, not within our government, but will be working for the state association and will still continue to live in our community, but is going to play a much more larger role in recreation at the state level. And so she's going to be leaving the city. She's not in the room. I just want to say, Charla, on behalf of all of us, thank you for helping to bring to life the activities that take place in Cascades Park and the way in which you have staffed them over the course of your time here with us. Continuing, Commissioners, we are now at our consent agenda. There's a motion and a second on consent. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Motion passes unanimously. Commissioners, I just wanted to mention real quickly under City Commission items, I did, and I think the manager forwarded on to you all a memo that I sent out, not a memo, or email requesting that we agenda for our discussion and decision-making, a decision around the city manager appointment for our next meeting, which will be November 10th, and that this will provide ample notice for the community and any other stakeholders who have an interest in this item, but that hopefully we'll be able to take this item up on November 10th if there is no objection to that. All right. Moving on to policy. And actually, introduction of ordinances. There are no ordinances for introduction. So on to policy formation. Item 13.01. Mr. Fletcher.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. This agenda item presents our proposed 2016 annual audit plan. As in prior years, this annual plan was developed using a professional risk-based approach where we evaluate all the different auditable topics and areas in the city using certain criteria, including fiscal impact, experience of management, public sensitivity, threat to public health, safety, and welfare, and the risk of loss, noncompliance, or fraud. As part of this process, we again solicited and provided input from various groups, including you as individuals, the neighborhood associations, different levels of city management, the independent ethics officer, and various city advisory boards. The proposed plan includes several projects that are being brought forward from previous audit plans for which the audits are currently in progress or have not yet been started, several new audit products for this year, and as always, follow-ups to address the city's success in resolving issues that have been identified in the prior audits. A little different from the prior years, we're carrying forward a few more projects from the previous year, and that's primarily because of the time and resources it took to complete this year's audit of the Consolidated Dispatch Agency. The proposed plan provides for completion of 12 audits and 14 follow-up audits, which is consistent with past plans. The plan has been discussed in detail with and reviewed and approved by the city's Citizen Audit Committee in accordance with the city charter, and I would like to recognize Ms. Karen Stanford, a long-serving member of that committee. Karen, if you'll stand, I appreciate it, and I appreciate your service along with Pam Butler and Paul Brown's service on that committee.
Thank you.
Our recommendation is that the plan be approved by the commission.
I'll move option 1.
Second.
There's a motion on option 1 to the city auditor. Thank you, as always, for the diligent work that you and your staff do, as well as to the committee. There's a motion and a second. No discussion. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, sir. Item 13.02, segways and pedicabs. Mr. Shelley, Ms. Edwards, before you all come, Commissioner Maddox, anything by way of introduction? I know you've asked for this item a number of times.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Commissioners, as you know, I've asked for this to be agended, as the Mayor mentioned several times. We currently have pedicabs and segways operating in Tallahassee, as you've heard from the citizen testimony. Our city Parks and Recreation, however, made the determination not to allow them in the interior of parks. There's a state statute that guides this that's in the agenda material. I personally have seen segways and pedicabs share sidewalks with pedestrians all over the world, everywhere from Bangkok, Thailand to Denver, Colorado, to Washington, D.C. I think it gives an added amenity for our citizens that the pedestrians are in no danger from a pedicab or from a Segway, and if we end up having a problem down the road, we can address it down the road. But as of now, we've never had a problem, and what I would like to see is the city allow pedicabs and Segways in our city parks and on our sidewalks.
I'll move option 3. I'm assuming that would do that, Commissioner?
Yes.
There's a motion and a second on option 3. I want to, are there any particular elements of the presentation you all need to?
No, I think staff is just seeking guidance on this item, and there's clearly state law on both issues. Staff really doesn't have a problem and hasn't had any problem with the Segways. The concern has been focused on the pedicabs, particularly in the interior park and sidewalks there, and concerned that they're to some degree incompatible with times when there's very heavy pedestrian traffic, when there may be, for example, within Cascade Park, a concert, and if you've been there when a well-attended concert, you know that most of the sidewalks get full very quickly, and concerned about the compatibility of having them in the interior of the parks. But certainly, I don't think anyone disputes what Commissioner Maddox has said in terms of being able to go forward, give it a try. If there are problems develop, we can certainly deal with them.
That's great. And I just, to Ashley and to the park staff, completely understand, particularly as it relates to Cascades Park, that is a part we've opened and have tried to be as deferential as we can to the pedestrian needs and uses. And oftentimes with these things, you just never know. The next thing you're going to deal with, I'm certain, is going to be, I don't know what you call this, is it a hovercraft or what, but the
drones.
No, the things that people like stand the skateboard, except it's horizontal instead of vertical. So I'm sure that's coming too. And my preference always is for yielding to the walking, running traffic in this space. But my guess is these folks wouldn't have a successful business model if they didn't have attention to that kind of detail. So with that, I completely support yielding to state law. Commissioner Richardson.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I too support both businesses going forward, but I don't want to discount the very legitimate concerns that staff has raised. And I noticed that there are other cities where sidewalks aren't able to be used and certain streets, depending on the speed limit. And I would imagine that as this grows in popularity, we may see more Segways, we may see more pedicabs. So I would just suggest that we monitor it. And as we go forward, if those issues do begin to arise to a significant degree, then as Commissioner Maddox said, we can revisit the issue. But I certainly would not want to see us, I don't want to use the word cripple, but not see legitimate businesses like this go forward when we haven't had any problems up to this point.
Great. Thank you. Commissioner Maddox.
Thank you, sir. Just in closing, it's also important to remember that many people can't walk or have a disability, but can use a Segway or a pedicab to get around. Mm-hmm. So it gives them the ability to traverse the interior of the park. And I think it'll end up being a happy ending. And in other cities, they ring a bell and let you know that they're coming, and people step aside one way or the other, or they stop. And I was recently in Atlanta for a football game with a horrible ending. And there were Segway tours going on in downtown Atlanta everywhere.
And that made you happy, right? At the end of the game, you needed that.
Nothing made me happy. So call the question.
Commissioners, there's a motion and a second to approve option 3. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes unanimously. Commissioners, we're now to item 13.03, approval to extend contract for state, general, state level utility, as well as federal level lobbying services. Row 11.
Move option 1.
There's a motion on option 1.
Second.
And a second. Commissioner Ziffer.
I'm going to be voting for this. I have issues with the fact that we really don't have an option at this point because we're sitting here at the end of October. Committee meetings are already going on. Session begins in January. We have a series of one-year extensions still remaining on this, correct? I really would like to have a discussion and put it on, I guess, as soon as when is session over this year? March? In April about what we're doing. I think we ought to have some kind of discussion, even if that means opening it back up for a bid. I think we ought to do that because I would like to have had a further discussion, but at this point, it's done. We should have had this in front of us over the summer, and I'm not sure why we didn't, but here we are at the latest date, and I think we should have a broader discussion, even consider opening it back up, all 3.
Great. Commissioner Maddox.
That was my point exactly, that, the Florida Senate is meeting as we meet right now, and the legislative session has been moved up this year, so you got a January, February session timetable, so that it would be ridiculous to make a change right now. So I support the motion, but I agree we need to have this discussion sooner rather than later.
Right. I agree with both comments made, and we ended up, as you all know, with a couple of special sessions, and then the legislature accelerating the schedule for coming back into session, which I think is pretty unprecedented. And we didn't want to lose coverage in a period of time. So our expectation was extend for a year and then go out upon the adjourning of this next session for rebid on all contracts. Mm-hmm. There's a motion and a second. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Motion passes unanimously. We're now on to item 13.04, approval to accept and execute the United States Department of Transportation Small Community Air Service Development Program grant. Mr. Curry, Mr. Manager.
Commissioners, the Tallahassee International Airport received notification from the U.S. Department of Transportation that our airport has been selected to receive a Small Community Air Service Development Grant, which will assist the airport and community with attracting new air service. The agenda item before you this evening seeks authorization to accept and execute that grant. Chris Curry is here to answer any questions that you may have.
Commissioner Maddox. There's a motion.
Second.
A second for approval. Commissioner Maddox.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple of things. Mr. Curry and I traveled to Chicago last January to meet with United Airlines. For those of you who have not been to Chicago, January is not the best time to go. It was my first trip to Chicago, and it was brisk. But we met with United in Chicago and spoke to United about offering additional air service out of Tallahassee, specifically a western route, and perhaps later a midwestern route. Chicago, the United folks were receptive to our discussion, and they asked us to apply for the Community Air Service Grant, and said that would go a long way toward adding additional service. The amount we were awarded, of course, we did apply. Our staff put together an outstanding application. The amount we were awarded was the highest amount awarded this year. There were 53 airports that applied, and only 11 were selected. That we will now take that grant, go back to United, and work on those additional routes. Any airline that's looking to provide service to a smaller, mid-size airport will be looking for something like this grant. So it puts us in a very good position to get additional air service.
Right.
Thank you, Mr. Curry, for your work.
And Mr. Curry, do you want to share with us the announcement on next year's conference real quick?
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners, City Manager. Last week we were selected at a conference in Arkansas to host the SIGSL Air Service Development Conference here from April 10th to the 12th of 2016. And the importance of this conference is that we get to bring all the airline network planners to Tallahassee so they can actually see all the things that I've been telling them about for the past year and a half. And hopefully that'll go a long way to getting additional air service with other carriers.
I'd also like to reference that Mr. Curry, who's been doing a great job in his capacity as the director of Tallahassee's International Airport, was also recognized last Friday, and I'm going to mess the title up, but you're like the person of the year, basically named by the Big Bend Minority Chamber of Commerce. So we want to salute you, obviously, for that recognition as well.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. Commissioners, there's a motion and a second. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Commissioner Mannix, Mr. Curry. 13.05, proposed revision of the Canopy Development Agreement. Mr. Shelley. I'm sorry, Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Commissioners, this agenda item addresses approximately 500 acres of the western portion of the Walani property known as the Toe. That was formerly a 6,500-acre plantation. The city has previously approved a planned unit development and a 163 development agreement for the property. A new developer is seeking to purchase the property for development and is proposing plans somewhat different than the previously approved plans and is now requesting that we renegotiate the terms of the various agreements that the development plans. Wayne Tedder is available to provide the details of the request as well as staff recommendations.
Mr. Tedder, I'm going to yield to you for a quick presentation.
Sir. Good afternoon, Commissioners. This agenda item, as Rick indicated, was to predominantly address 500 acres on the western portion of Walani. It's known as the Toe, as you see on the drawing in front of you. It is part of, basically, the Walani plantation is everything that you see where there's no green lines on it. So it is one of the largest undevelopable areas that are in our urban service area that is programmed for future housing and development for our community. It's a very critical piece of property for future development of Tallahassee and Leon County. As you notice, kind of put you in perspective, this is Centerville Road, this is Fleshman Road, and this is Miccosukee Road and I-10. So it kind of gives you the idea of what roads frame this property.
And did you want to reference what that cross, that red...
Yes, this is an area that we're looking at for the proposed interchange. It's in your regional mobility plan, and I'll touch on that near the end of the presentation. So very, very quickly, in 2002, the comprehensive plan was amended to include the Walani Critical Area Plan. to govern development of the toe and the hill. The toe, as you can see, includes 1,035 acres. The hill, approximately 907 acres. What is not included in the critical area plan in the comp plan is the area north of I-10 that you see in this area here. That is set aside for future growth as needed after the planning period for the toe and the hill to commence. Kind of very quickly, as you look at this picture, what you see in the white areas with the lines drawn down from these boxes indicate what kind of development intensities are already approved in your comprehensive plan and in some cases in a plan unit development for this property. For instance, in this toe area that you see on the western portion of this, 2,712 dwelling units and 435,000 square feet of commercial and non-residential development. If you go over to the hill, for some reason this mouse is not catching up. This area here has substantially more commercial and office, allows 1.1 million square feet of commercial and office development, as well as 2,107 dwelling units. So again, providing the ability to provide housing in this part of our community for the needs in the upcoming years is very, very important for these properties. Kind of putting things together in what's happened over the past couple of years. In February of 2011, you all approved a plan unit development called Canopy PUD. That is this area here. Basically, it extends from Fleshman Road all the way over to the east side of Dove Pond, which is Dove Pond is located in this area here. And then in 2013, August of 2013, the city also approved a plan unit development for the city-owned property in this area here. So you see how these two developments, they connect and relate to each other in a substantial way. As part of the Canopy PUD process, this, again, going back to this property here, the CNL, the current property owner, and TOE2, the name of the company, and the city entered into a 163 development agreement to facilitate the development of the plan unit development as approved by the City Commission. And it also provided some necessary urban infrastructure to not only serve this property, but surrounding properties as well. And for example, the right-of-way that you see for Willani Boulevard that extends through this property, additional right-of-way was given for this regional roadway network that will connect further to the north. Also, a public trail system was provided for transit facilities, a fire station site. All of those things would be donated to the city as part of that 163 development agreement as part of the current agreement. So the development agreement is a very valuable tool for you all to utilize, especially when these large developments come in. It's an opportunity for you to look at the bigger picture of this area, and it's a way that you can obtain some of the necessary infrastructure needs to serve a larger area than just this one development. CNL and TOE2, they have now entered into negotiations to sell the property. Your agenda item indicates it's to the Oxbottom Mortgage Holdings, LLC. Their agents, Steve Gasvini and Tom Asbury, they have approached city staff to discuss, number one, revisions to the CNL Willani PUD in this area that would make the Canopy PUD a more financially feasible development. And one of the things that, as we present plans to you from the planning department, we always want our planning to be real. And you really don't know that until you start getting to where you can draw the lines and start getting the development lines on the ground. And so that's where they're at this point right now. The requested revisions that are outlined in your agenda item, but generally the developer is requesting to renegotiate the existing development agreement and based on a revised development plan that they have presented to staff at this point. Also, the developer wants to renegotiate the joint project agreement for the Dove Pond Regional Facility. Currently, that agreement is with the Leon County. Now, this agenda item goes into a lot of discussion regarding the history of historic flooding that is downstream of this property, typically around the Edenfield Road area, Lafayette Estates down in this area. And there is a lot of water that streams down through this property and comes down through the unincorporated area of the county and creates flooding issues and have been issues for many years. Now, Leon County has taken a number of steps to try to reduce flooding in those areas, but they have not alleviated flooding. So there is an opportunity for Dove Pond to be that regional facility, if not to substantially further reduce flooding in that area, could potentially eliminate flooding in many areas. I would like to point out that the City of Tallahassee has looked at the possibility of utilizing this pond for portions of the city's property here. There may be an opportunity for the city to utilize capacity in that facility, but based on the need that we see currently serving the unincorporated part of the county, staff at this point really feels like ownership and maintenance responsibilities should not be an issue that the city should be responsible for at this time. So since the approval of the PUDs along this corridor, we've had the 2020 sales tax extension come before the voters and approved. One of those projects was the Weelaunee, the Northeast Gateway project, which included the infrastructure necessary to obtain the, going back to what the mayor asked, the interchange on I-10 and Weelaunee Boulevard. This project, the primary purpose of this project is to support or provide the infrastructure necessary to give support for that interchange to be located where that red cross was located. While this, one of the things that makes this even more real to you, those of you who sit on the CRTPA, very recently you've received a presentation from Florida Department of Transportation. They were looking at the impacts of Thomasville Road and I-10, and one of the proposed fixes just for construction alone was $200 million. That did not include right-of-way, and the right-of-way is prime up in that area. Commercial property would be extremely expensive and costly. So ways to defer that improvement or alter that improvement in some ways, that interchange and that linkage through those through the Weelaunee Boulevard is very, very important to look at ways to reduce that congestion from that intersection. And this project will do exactly what I have just discussed. Now, what is critically important, and in conversations with the Florida Department of Transportation and even Federal Highways Administration, the blue line that you see is the Phase 1 Weelaunee project. That complete extension of that project is critical for providing the relief to the Thomasville Road I-10 interchange. If you stop halfway, if you get up to the interchange and stop, it does no good to Thomasville Road and I-10. So it's very critical that when you're talking about the construction of the roadway that you look at the entire corridor that extends all the way up to the Shamrock intersection. So staff is seeking direction from the City Commission on moving forward with discussions of the Ox Bottom LLC. Very quickly, we have three recommended recommendations for you. Number one, that you direct us to negotiate with the developer on any revisions necessary to agreements for a mutually agreeable development plan. As I indicated to you, the developer has made some proposed changes to the development plan. We really need to get in the weeds with the developer and work through those that development plan to make sure it's consistent with the comprehensive plan, or even if it's something that is a more appropriate development that we need to come back and bring an amendment to the comprehensive plan to achieve. We need to have that ability to kind of start those negotiations. The second recommendation is to provide direction for city staff to work with the county, Blueprint, and the developers to develop, design, and construct options, including a cost share plan with the developers for completion of the Weelaunee Boulevard Phase 1 project, which would utilize developer and Blueprint sales tax and even potentially other leverage funds that might be possible through this process. We would be able to bring that to you at an intergovernmental agency Blueprint meeting. The next scheduled meeting is February of next year, and then timing's probably pretty good where we can bring back some recommendations on a solid structure for that process. And then lastly, option number 3 is to provide direction to staff to work with the developer and the county to consider modifications to the joint project agreement regarding Dove Pond and the utilization of that pond for city purposes as well as county purposes. Again, utilizing funding through public-private partnership, Blueprint sales tax dollars, and that would then also come back to you at most likely the February intergovernmental agency meeting.
Got it. Commissioner Maddox.
So my understanding, Mr. Tedder, is that by approval of options 1, 2, and 3, we're sending you forward to negotiate based on the points that are brought up in each one of those, and it'll be brought back for final decision either through the intergovernmental agency or this body.
That is correct.
I move staff recommendations of approval of options 1, 2, and 3.
Second.
There's a motion and a second on the item. Commissioner Ziffer.
This is mainly just for the sake of disclosure. The city attorney and I have had a discussion about this. I've had a 30-plus year friendship with the attorney representing the developer, Oxbottom. I don't have any business relationship with Oxbottom. I don't have any business relationship with the attorney that representing them, but I do want to disclose that. The city attorneys advised me to publicly disclose it, the personal relationship, which I have done, but that doesn't prevent me from voting. I just want to disclose that relationship.
And one other relevant fact that I should point out, the Board of County Commissioners took up the exact same request at their meeting last night, and they did vote to move forward with the same direction that we are providing to you tonight.
Great. Any other comments? Well, one, just to you all and to the parties that are a party to this. This is a very, very, very huge major development in our urban core, and will be a critical part of probably the next 20, 25 years of the city's growth. And so just want to acknowledge that this is a big deal, and I'm sure you all will handle it with the care that it deserves. Wish you the best of luck with it. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Motion passes unanimously.
Mr. Mayor, just a quick comment now that we voted. For everyone to understand, because I know that there was recently some discussion in the newspaper and in the media regarding the canopy roads. This road system that potentially could go in, one of its major designs, and Commissioner Miller knows this, is to alleviate traffic off of both Miccosukee and Centerville. Because if you're going to travel a road that moves quickly, that's going to be your choice over a road that is windy or potentially has some barriers and is slower. So the idea, one of the big ideas of Wilani Boulevard is it's going to take traffic off those canopy roads, which I think is vitally important, which quite frankly also is where the development got its name, for the beauty and such that would surround both sides. So hopefully, in my opinion, we can work this out so that this road can get built to take some of the traffic off those two roads.
Absolutely. Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioners, before we head on break, I want to now recognize Ashley Edwards, who will come forward and do a quick presentation for our Leadership Academy graduates, and then we'll take a quick recess.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners. Last night we concluded our 14th Neighborhood Leadership Academy, where, yes, that's quite an impressive feat in itself, where 24 of our citizens have spent the last 9 weeks with us getting a firsthand, behind-the-scenes look at all the wonderful services that the city provides. And we want to thank them and recognize them tonight, but also we really appreciate their commitment of time to spend with us. One night a week for 9 weeks is a pretty good commitment there, and we appreciate their engagement and their willingness to not only learn about our city government and how it works. They've spent time with almost every department, but also to take that information back to their neighborhoods as we all continue to try to help Tallahassee grow and become an even better and better and better place to live. So with that, I'd like to ask them to stand up and be recognized, and we're going to also ask them to join us up during the break, where we'll show some formal recognition and appreciation to them. Y'all want to stand? And they'll see you upstairs where we can speak one-on-one with them.
Absolutely. And again, thank you all for such a commitment and dedication to wanting to know more about the city that you live in, but also to contribute your time and your talents to making Tallahassee a better community for yourselves and for your neighbors and for all of us who call Tallahassee home. So we look forward to talking a little bit with you and want to congratulate you on your successful completion of this program. With that, we'll stand in adjournment until 6. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the public hearing component of this Wednesday, October 28th City Commission meeting. City Attorney?
Why is it so quiet?
1501, item 1501 is continuation of the first and only public hearing on ordinance number 15-Z-21, proposed amendment to the official zoning map from Urban Central 26 zoning district to Central Urban 45. Any speakers?
Give me one moment. I don't believe so, but no, sir, no speakers on 1501.
No speakers, Commissioners. This is first and only.
Move the item, Mr. Mayor.
The recommendation is to continue the item until the November 24th meeting.
Any objection to continuation? All right, without objection. 15.02.
Item 15.02 is the first of two public hearings on ordinance number 15-0-32. It's a proposed amendment to the Land Development Code amending a number of sections, including sections 10-26, medium density residential, 10-25, medium density residential 1, zoning districts related to maximum district density allowed and street vehicular access restriction. This is the second and final public hearing will be the last public hearing, last meeting in November, which is November 24.
Great. First of two public hearings. Any speakers?
No speakers.
No speakers. Moving on to item 15.03.
Item 1503 is the first and only public hearing on ordinance 15-Z-29, proposed amendment to the official zoning map to change the zoning classification from the target planning area TPA zoning district to the Governor's Park Corner Plan Unit development. Speaker?
David Weiss is available to answer questions. Otherwise, no speakers.
Right. Commissioners, this is the first and only. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to approve staff recommendation. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Motion passes. Commissioner Maddox out of chamber. Item 15.04. And before we begin taking public comment, I'd like to get a sense of our commission. Is there anyone who is in favor of taking action on this item this evening?
This is sound.
This is the sound ordinance.
I am.
There he is. Okay, Commissioner Miller, and before we get obviously too deep into any consideration, we'll take public comment.
Well, I just wanted to suggest before we started, because this might alleviate some people's minds, Mia Shargal has sent us a wonderful email, and in her last paragraph, she said that she has been talking to Mr. Dan Gilbertson, and that on behalf of him and her, they are asking for a continuance of this ordinance for at least 2 weeks so that they're free to work together. In addition to that, not just the two of them, but a group of people, and I was going to actually present that as an option to table this until perhaps the 9th of December. I know Commissioner Ziffer, all of us would like to move forward with this actually and have it behind us, but I think that this would involve disbanding the stakeholders meeting or the stakeholders group. I think that they've done as much as they can do, but there are certain constraints on them as a city committee. I think if we just I think what the folks want to do, the business community and the neighbors, is to take this outside of and have some private conversations of their own and see if they could come back to us with some recommendations. I favor that option. I think that's perfectly reasonable. I understand that's how we did Blueprint, and that was a successful effort. So if this has any chance of a shot at any kind of consensus, we as government have had our our opportunity, and we are still nowhere. So I'd be more than happy to let them see what they can do on their own and move that we table it.
Got it. On point, Commissioner Richardson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I agree with Commissioner Miller. From the conversations that I've had from business community representatives, neighborhood representatives, CONA, they all are interested in continuing this item for another 2 weeks. I support that. I would stipulate, though, that in 2 weeks that we take action on an ordinance.
I think just so for clarification, the recommendation from Commissioner Miller is for December 9th. So that's about a month.
I figure they'll have to do their work, they'll have to get back and then reintroduce their comments into the government's arena, and then they'll have to write an agenda item, and the agenda item comes out the week before the meeting,
Okay.
and so on and so
All
forth.
right. Got it.
So
Okay.
by that time, you're at the
You're right.
as December 9th.
Okay.
meeting.
So, Mr. Mayor, I would put that in the form of a motion.
There's a motion if you'd like to second.
Continue the item to the December, whatever the appropriate date meeting is. All right. Mr. Attorney, if that's the appropriate motion.
We can certainly do that. We've advertised a public hearing tonight, so I think
we'll move forward.
It's certainly appropriate to move forward with that. We can either close the public hearing at the end of the discussion tonight, or we can continue it until December the 9th. So if you want to allow additional public comment at that point in time, you can also do that. We'll have to obviously re-advertise for that.
Great. Commissioners, there's a motion and a second, which I'm inclined to support. Before we will not take a vote prior to public comment, by the way.
I just want to make a few comments.
Absolutely. I will yield to you, Commissioner. Just one quick, actually, go ahead, Commissioner Ziffer.
So I've been getting all the emails too, and you've been getting the emails, and with the exception of maybe one or two, quite frankly, I see these two groups, if I can categorize you, as going further apart. I mean, we've gone from what we proposed in this ordinance, which was like 75 decibels or so, to 110 somebody's proposing. I got to tell you, your ears are bleeding at 110. And another proposal I saw where decibel levels were not applicable. I think that's crazy. And so quite frankly, I see the two groups going further apart. So I'm going to make an alternative recommendation, which is we actually approve what is being presented to us tonight with a 90-day sunset. 90 days, this goes away, which forces the committee to get back together and come up with an alternative they think they can do better. Because I'm fine with that, because if an alternative comes back in 90 days that's better than this, and everybody's in agreement, wonderful. Let's make that happen. But right now, I'm tired of getting emails at 2 in the morning, and I don't want to get any more phone calls. And it's gotten to the point where we actually have people, because I was just told a story during the break, that I would never have thought would said this, but a neighbor went to them because there was a situation too loud, and in the past they were cooperative, but they'd heard there's no ordinance, so they said, you can't make me turn it down, so I'm not. I mean, we're at a point where it's just getting crazy. And so for me, I think we should have something on the books. I think this is something that we must be doing something right because nobody's happy with it. And I say that jokingly, but quite frankly, I think there's some truth to that. Give it 90 days. After 90 days, we're going to know whether we're somewhere in the right ballpark or whether we're way off, or the committee's going to come back with something, because I would like them to convene right away. Because I'm concerned, commissioners, we'll come back in 30 days or whenever it is, and we'll just be further apart, and 30 days will have gone by, and all of us will continue to get these emails, and it just goes further apart. So I offer an alternative recommendation to accept what's being presented with a 90-day sunset.
Commissioner Das, for lack of a second, there is a motion with regard to having this item brought back by December 9th. And just, Commissioner Ziffer, I want to obviously acknowledge you and thank you for the work that you have put into this. Unfortunately, I do feel that there are some pretty substantial flaws in what has come forward, and I'm concerned about the impact that that has on, I think, the kind of districts and the kind of community we have said we're trying to create. And so, you know, we've lived, I guess, for a long time, for forever, without an ordinance. And I certainly don't want us to continue too far into the future without one, because like you, I've gotten those messages. I've woken up some mornings and looked at my Facebook, and I've got 3 messages from the same person. One comes in at 2, the person writes again at 3, and then another one at 4, as if I'm checking at 2, 3, and 4, saying that the noise is still going. So I know that it's a discomfort for a lot of people. And it has to be addressed. But I do think the recommendation from Commissioner Miller is a reasonable approach, and I think certainly I'm committed, and I hope many of us by December 9th to acting some way or another. Commissioner Miller, followed by Commissioner Richardson.
Yes, I do want to reiterate that we will act on December 9th. So whatever's before us by that time, you all have that much time. I wish you the best of luck, but we'll make a decision. Just for the very reasons that both my fellow commissioners have mentioned, there are people who are up all night long. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's coming from a club. It's usually a neighbor or something like that. But there are people who are, really need for us to put some rules in place. So with that, I wish you well and certainly hope for the best.
Just for the record, I want to say that we said we were going to do something in September. And we said we were going to do something in October.
But we mean
and now we're skipping November, and now we're going to do something in December. We're really going to do it.
I'm going to
hold us to that. Because some people can't sleep at night, and that's just not right. Now, I think most of our business community does a pretty good job. But there are exceptions, and those exceptions are the ones we need to deal with. So if we're going to promise it, commissioners, then let's make sure we do it.
Noted. Commissioner Richardson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And Commissioner Ziffer, if you recall, I was one of those at the last meeting clamoring for a decision at this meeting as well, because I think we do need something on the books so that neighborhoods in particular have some relief from the noise that they're experiencing quite often. But I would prefer to try to get it right the first time, rather than having something that we have to come back and change in 90 days. I think we've got a group of folk that are represented here now that may not have come to the table before. I mean, we've got representatives from the business community, the entertainment community, the neighborhoods, Kona leadership is represented. And so I would like, and they've said that they want to work together. So I think it wouldn't be a bad idea to give them that opportunity to come together, again, with the stipulation that on December 9th, we are going to make a decision. And I'm hoping that will be something that we can all live with at that point.
Great.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Commissioners. Commissioners, where we are now is there is a motion and a second on the floor. We will proceed with the public hearing and then close the public hearing. The public will still have an opportunity to make comment about whatever ultimately comes forward as a regular part of the agenda item. So for those who are interested in making comment tonight, given where we currently are, you can certainly feel free to do so. Or when your name is called, you can simply wave and have your interest your position on this item registered. So with that, Treasurer Clerk.
Mr. Mayor, just a quick question.
Yes, sir.
So if we continue the public hearing, will we take public testimony at that December 9th meeting as well?
If we close the public hearing, we can still take testimony. It would happen as a part of the agenda item, the agenda portion, rather than the public hearing portion, if that makes sense.
Yeah, okay.
We have a number of speakers, as you might imagine. The first is Sue Dick, and she will be followed by Leroy Peck. As with the earlier portion of our meeting, each speaker will have 3 minutes for his or her remarks.
And can waive that time if they choose.
Good afternoon. Good evening, mayors, commissioners, and interim city manager. My name is Sue Dick. I'm president and CEO of the Tallahassee Area Chamber of Commerce. 412 Plantation Road. Based on the comments that were just made, I will make my remarks very briefly. I'm going to ask for the tabling of the discussion. We have worked very closely. We've had participation in the Citizens Advisory Committee with participations from the business community. We do not want to continue to divide the business in the neighborhood. However, many of our members, many of our business owners have indicated concern with regards to the ramification from the proposed ordinance. I would support tabling and delaying until the group can better convene to come up with a compromise between the two before any action is taken. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sue. Leroy Peck, followed by Dan Gilbertson.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners, Mr. Cook, Mr. English, Mr. Fernandez, and citizens. Good evening. My name is Leroy Peck. I serve as President of the Council of Neighborhood Associations, and as was Ms. Dick, I will also be very brief. The current position is very simple. We want the citizens to have an opportunity to have input into this matter. You've indicated a willingness to table it and give us that opportunity. What the neighborhood representative have asked for is input. And there are some issues of contention, but I don't think there are any that can't be worked through given the opportunity. And given the time constraints, Commissioners Zerford and Richardson, I want to commend you and just in the energy in moving this forward. I get some of those same emails, some of those same phone calls, and so I understand the frustration. I will also tell you that I'm hearing impaired. I truly understand the damage that noise can do if not properly dealt with. So again, the current position would be to table it and allow citizen input into that matter. And to that end, we've already reserved the public library for a town hall meeting on this issue on Monday from 6 to 9 p.m.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Peck.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Dan Gilbertson, and then we'll hear from Cassandra DeCoste.
Evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Thank you for this opportunity. I'll make this quick also. Really don't so much want to address the committee here, but address the neighborhoods out there and let them know that I really look forward to this opportunity, that I don't like where I look at the room and kind of look at a lot of business over here and neighborhoods over here. It doesn't have to be that way. The goal that we have is we want to give you the protection for your neighborhoods. We understand you should have peace and quiet in your neighborhoods, to be able to put your children to bed without any disturbance and to enjoy your livelihood. You know, we have a neighborhood. I actually live downtown. My neighborhood's a little bit different. You know, we have activities and we have events and we have this fun. You guys have done a great job of this live, work, and play aspect, and we need to create a certain environment for that. But by no means do I want what we do and what we're creating our environment, my neighborhood, to be to interfere with your neighborhoods. And when we have time for us to have that discussion, our proposal really could be passing this with the, not exclusion of downtown, we haven't had one downtown, but pass it for the rest of Tallahassee is basically what we're saying. We want to give you your protection. If you have a line at your property and it's at a certain level, no matter what we're doing in our area, it should not cross that threshold. So that's all I want to say is, so hopefully we have time to kind of discuss that, to come to those terms, so that we can have a type of community that kind of gives to everybody. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Cassandra DeCoste, followed by Kim McShane.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Okay, Cassandra DeCoste, 1929 Ann Arbor Avenue. This is my daughter, Aurora. She's 3 years old. I am a single mom. I am a first-year law student. I am a first-time home buyer, and I love my home. It's a beautiful home. But we are currently being affected by the lack of a city sound ordinance. We live pretty conservatively. We get home about 5. We eat our dinner, get ready for bed, go to sleep at 8. And we have a common wall neighbor in our townhouse who likes to live a little differently than we do. And part of him living differently is listening to music from about 4:30 in the afternoon until 2 in the morning. We are so affected, it vibrates the wall. On 3 occasions, we've had to call the police. And the police, though they care, they come out. They tell us there's nothing that can be done. It's so frustrating. And I know that it's been a difficult task for all of you to come together, for the community to reach an agreement, but we're begging for some intervention. There's nothing that we can do. Our hands are tied. And so we would really appreciate it if this matter could just go forward so that we could get some sleep at night and we can enjoy the peace of our home. And our home should be a shelter from the hectic day. We shouldn't have to be burdened by this noise nuisance. And there's just no remedy for us. And so we're standing before you asking that you push this matter forward. It's been long enough that the citizens, the quiet neighbors, the ones who take care of their responsibilities as homeowners, to have to struggle with this. And so we are asking that you push it forward. And thank you for hearing from us tonight.
Thank you. Thank you. Kim McShane, and then the next speaker is Rebecca Hunter.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners. My name is Kim McShane. I live at 1400 Jackson Street. That's in the corner of Jackson and 7th Avenue in Levy Park, which is in the newly blossoming Midtown area. I just wanted to let you know I brought a decibel meter with me to our meeting tonight. When I was given this meter this afternoon, my friend was in the driver's side of his car with the radio on at conversational level. I was standing outside the window, and we clocked in at 74.5 decibels. Mr. Mayor, you might be interested to know that your vocal tone through the microphone is a lovely 69-ish, and Commissioner Miller, yours comes in at about 64. So I would just like to say that I think...
Loudest too? Or?
Just to get an average. Just to go quickly, I'm a music lover. I DJ downtown at Waterworks. I'm a participant I'm a homeowner. I have cocktail parties on my deck, and I have, in the 4 years that I've lived there, never had a noise complaint. I would like to propose a good neighbor initiative first, that rather than call the police right off the bat, perhaps go speak to your neighbor in a friendly way. This is what I do before I'm having a little shindig. I'll sometimes go next door and around and just say, hey, everybody, just to let you know, a little party. You're invited if you want to come over. But I feel that the current levels as they stand in the proposed ordinance are draconian, as we can see there, like below the level of what's going on in this room. Just while people were shaking hands and getting settled, I had a decibel readings between 69.3 and up to 82 and 85 decibels. So I feel like the proposed levels are kind of specifically designed for selective enforcement. I worry that that enforcement will take place more against young people and the areas where young people and minorities tend to congregate. It's difficult to envision this rule as it stands not being abused. If my 65-year-old neighbor gets up an hour early to mow his lawn at 6 a.m. rather than 7, are the police really going to come and give him a $150 ticket? I doubt it. Also, I feel like a $150 fine without a prior warning is exorbitant and punishing. I would say, I would like to speak on behalf of, good citizenship and let everybody speak to one another first, or maybe a warning from the police would be acceptable before ticketing just begins out of hand.
I need to warn you that your 3 minutes have expired.
Okay, great. Well, that's all I wanted to say. We're clocking in pretty hard and fast up against the 70 decibel rule, and that's just in this room. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Rebecca Hunter, and then Kenneth Hayes.
Good evening.
Evening.
My name is Rebecca Hunter. I live in the Providence community, which is off of Lake Bradford Road. I talk to the police, who are doing a wonderful job, at least 3 times a week, because of my community does not accept please turn down your music. So I am one that's in the community. Noise is a huge issue in my neighborhood. People enjoy spending time outdoors, which I think is wonderful. But they also enjoy playing their loud music, which is a bad thing when you can hear it in your home. I've read the noise ordinance, and I think it's a great place to start. Having weekly conversations with said officers and deputies when I call to make a complaint, I know they need the authority to be able to have the offenders turn down their music. There is one section, however, that I think needs revision. It currently states that decibel levels will be taken from the yard of the person who calls in the complaint. There are several reasons that needs to change with the decibel level being taken from the offender's home. Here are the two most important to me. Number one, if you're doing something illegal, like breaking the noise ordinance, you should be judged from the area in which you're breaking the law. To me, as the current wording states, it's like if someone was doing something, say like smoking pot, you would say, well, it's okay as long as I can't smell it from my house. That doesn't make it any less illegal. And just because it isn't noticeable at your property doesn't mean you should look the other way. Number two, if you're going to judge the decibel level from the property of which the complainant has called, the entire neighborhood will be aware of who's making the complaints. In some situations, that's unsafe for the person making the call. Any man, woman, mother, student, child, whatever your situation may be, you should feel free to speak to law enforcement over the phone without having attention called to your home. If this causes a fine for the offender, they could seek retribution against you, your home, or your property. Finally, I think it's important to make sure that the machines used to test the sound are sensitive to bass. That's the sound that carries most frequently. Please know I'm not against business. I'm not against having fun. I'm not against music or any of the such. What I am against is having someone else being able to intrude into my personal space. Everyone living within our city should have that right to seek sanctuary inside of their home. And that includes the peace and quiet offered by the enforcement of a well thought out noise ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kenneth Hayes is speaking next, and then Mia Shargell.
My name's Kenneth Hayes. I live at 1935 Nanticoke Circle. And while I understand and appreciate the fact that we need a noise ordinance, I'm going to quibble with the 70, because if we manage to hit 75 or 80 if somebody gets close to the mic, that's not enough that I think you need to kick in and cause people to turn it down. I think you need to change the number to like a 90. 80, I don't know. My problem is that I don't have one of the cute little meters, so I'm not sure just how loud it gets. But I think you need to change the number up from 70. I don't want to go to 110, don't get me wrong, which I've seen some people advocating. But I think you need to come up above 70. And I do appreciate this lady's comment about not necessarily wanting to highlight who made the call. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mia Shargell is the next speaker, and then the following speaker will be Tommy Warren.
I'm Mia Shargell, and I'm speaking largely as a representative of the In-Town Neighborhood Noise Coalition. I would like to point out that if we are at about 70 right now, if you can imagine us at 70 with noise, in music, and with a good bass going, with high dBCs, we might be pretty darn loud, actually, in an enclosed space. I had originally said that I wanted to talk to you tonight in the email that I wrote about the original committee, which I feel, quite honestly, has squandered its opportunities. Without the energy put into it by Commissioner Miller, there would have been no acoustical expert to work with us. And we do have a tendency in Tallahassee to think we can do it with homegrown talent. We did get Rob Lilkendi. He has been with us. There have been 6 meetings altogether, one of them last August in 2013. He came with us 3 times. He presented things about sound, he presented things about noise ordinances, and he took us on a walk to noisy places in the city to help us understand how noise decays and does not decay. He talked to us about the fact that we live in a city that has peculiar climatological factors and that also has topographical, whatever I'm trying to say on that one, that we got hills in this town, and that makes a real serious difference in the way noise travels and how sometimes it can hop for miles before you actually get the unbearable sounds. I would like to make and I don't think that his time was used. We never, at any time, sat down and seriously discussed what he had said or tried to apply it to the city. Nor was there any time when we were able to talk together to be creative, which is why Dan and I came up with the idea of having this other meeting. But let me please caution you that if we sit down, if the neighborhood folks and the business people sit down together again, this is not going to come out with anything that has bearing on the apartments, which at some point in the committee we said, we'll do that next time, said somebody, because actually it doesn't affect any of us, so we ought to be able to do that pretty fast. And we never actually got round even to discussing that. What we can bring back to you the next time, if we talk, is the possibility of some kind of agreement between the business community and the neighborhoods. I am not at all sure that it will affect the ordinance as a whole. And quickly before my time runs out, may I also say, as I did in the email to you all, that the reintroduction of the map, which originally was the special entertainment areas, is an incendiary thing to put in. That cannot be from the point of anybody in any of the neighborhoods in Tallahassee. That simply cannot be part of an ordinance that we can stand behind. And
excuse me, your 3 minutes have expired.
thank you very much.
Thank you. Tommy Warren.
I'll waive my time and I concur in the comments of Ms. Shargell.
Thank you. For those who could not hear, he waived his time in support of the comments of Ms. Shargell. Then the next speaker is Kathy Villacorta, and then Dean Minardi.
Kathy Villacorta. I'm the president of the Glendale Neighborhood Association, 2057 Florida Avenue, and I'm here to support the comments of Ms. Shargell and introduce the other board members that are here with me: Tommy Warren, Philip Parsons, Nancy Bivens, Jerry Mortimer, and Ellen Mortimer. We're concerned about the issue because of our proximity to potentially a mixed-use area, so we're very concerned about how mixed-use areas are defined and what prompts the designation.
Thank you. Thank you. Dean Minardi is next and will be followed by V.J. Connor.
I waive my time in support of Dan Gilbertson's comments.
Thank you. Thank you again. For those who could not hear, waived in support of Dan Gilbertson's comments. V.J. Connor.
Hi, Jeannie Connor, 534 Oakland Avenue. I'm going to be very brief. I also support what Mia Shargell and Tommy Warren have said. I think there's a lot of misunderstanding about decibel levels. The decibel levels, and I just want everyone in the room to sort of understand that, the decibel levels that were used by the person from Michigan, dear God, Acoustics by Design, that we hired are these, and he's the professional. The threshold is hearing is 0, human breathing is 10, a whisper is 22, the average residence is 30, a typical office environment is 40 to 50, a busy freeway is 60 to 70, a street corner in a busy city is 80. When you get to 85, you get to long-term hearing loss. At 90, you are in a serious condition with OSHA. At 100 decibels, you hear an automobile horn from 9 feet. At 120, you hear thunder nearby. You've moved into a pain threshold at 110. These are very serious. And one of the things that we keep saying is, well, 60 decibels is sort of a conversation from 1 foot, which it is. When you open your door to go out and sit on your patio, do you want to hear a conversation at 60 decibels from 1 feet? I don't. I went to a beautiful restaurant this morning and moved because there was a loud conversation. So I think we need to understand what this means in terms of our homes. I very much appreciate what Commissioner Ziffer, Commissioner Miller, and others have done, and I hope we can work this out. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Brian Ellman, and then he'll be followed by Scott Carswell.
Good evening. I'm Brian Ellman. I live near Myers Park. My comments will be all about amplified music played outside. AMPO. I'm going to call it AMPO. The noise limits for AMPO in the proposed ordinance are way too high. They're higher than those for most cities and those recommended by the city's own sound consultant. Everyone should know that increasing dBs by 10 doubles perceived sound. By 5 dB, increases it by 41%. Before passing this ordinance, each commissioner should perform 2 simple tests, which I've done. First, play some not your kind of music on your patio. Turn it up to 60 dBA. You can measure this by a free downloadable app. Now imagine trying to enjoy a pleasant, otherwise relatively quiet evening. Second, play the music at 55 dBA outside your bedroom window. Now go into your bedroom and imagine trying to sleep. Allowing a few to pollute the space of many by broadcasting loud ample, often for profit or ear-deafening pleasure, is unnecessary and simply rude. It's like allowing secondhand smoke. It's not about balancing your quality of life while also supporting economic growth and prosperity, as one commissioner recently stated, or a vibrant 18-hour downtown as posted on the website Vote 110 DBA. I have one son living in Austin, one in Nashville. Each enjoys a vibrant 18-hour downtown music area that supports growth and prosperity. Yet there's no AMPO. Allowing it would be unsustainable and likely will become so in mixed-use areas as defined in this ordinance. One venue's AMPO can be drowned out by another's, or perhaps by a band of irate citizens with boom boxes. Downtown businesses that are not perpetrators should oppose AMPO. Customers like hotel guests have to put up with it, and local customers will become fewer and less affluent as downtown neighborhoods become less desirable places to live. The solution to loud AMPO is simple. Take it inside or turn the volume way down. Unless sanctioned by the city for a specific event, AMPO that is clearly audible, and you can put some DBA to this if you want, at a complainant's property line should not be allowed, period. Thank you.
Thank you. Scott Carswell, and then the next speaker will be Mary Pohl.
Good evening. Thank you, Scott Carswell, 1051 Seminole. As I look at the ordinance, I think back to when I made a report here on the amphitheaters we were just fixing to open in March of 14. And as I came in the door that day, or earlier that day, we had a disagreement between CBI and myself, Blueprint, over the readings. I'd spent 9 months on the payroll of Blueprint doing a sound study, and we had used a length of time to determine our numbers. And as I came in that day, it was down to a second, which would have meant we wouldn't have any bands in the amphitheater or anywhere. There wouldn't be anybody. So you could take this ordinance, and as you add in the variable of determining whether it's an L10 or a averaging of the sound, you could appease the neighborhood or you could appease the violators of the ordinance and make either one happy depending upon how you do it. The instrument is defined in here, but not that method of peaks. At Chastain Park, 20 minutes is what they go for. And then they notify the band in the next set or the next 20 minutes. So we didn't get that passed here. We got a 20-second Now maybe it's a 10, but somewhere in there, Ashley and I deal with it and we make it work. So that has to be specified, or we're never going to get numbers that we can use quantitatively to work this out between the two. The peak is the issue. Ambient noise, acoustics by design, in March of 13 came out with 54 in the Myers Park neighborhood. When we did our 9 months worth of study, we were at 55.28. So right in that zone is what it sits at night with nothing. So if you're going to put a 55 on it, you're going to have to plot the birds down somehow because it ain't going to work. So the ambient level is starting off at those levels in the report that you've paid for. So we've got to work on that. The other thing I don't understand is if I'm in a mixed-use area, which my business is in, I live behind it, so my house is not in one. So if my business is allowed to make mixed-use noise, is that quantitatively decided at my residence according to mixed-use numbers, Table 1, or am I defined in Table 2? If I'm in Table 2, I've got a problem in the sense that I'm mixed-use, but across the street from me is using Table 2. So that seems to be confusing. The other thing is we're never going to have a happy town if we don't get back to 3 years ago when the Supreme Court knocked out the car deal. When we run them out of our parking lot, it's insane. So I had no violations according to this report in 13. I had 13 in 14. It's all subjective about how many cars were riding down the street. When we tear up Magnolia and we have everybody closed on Magnolia, Woodlands Drive and myself are going to be slaughtered until that opens up again. They're coming down Seminole. They're coming through Albin. It's going to be mayhem. So we need to focus on what cars are doing, moving violators as well as physical plant and property and equipment type violators.
Excuse me, your 3 minutes have expired.
There you have it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mary Pohl is next, and then we'll have Phoenix Furman.
I'm Mary Pohl, 2305 Miranda Avenue. I'm here representing the West Side. And I would like to confirm what Mia Shargell said. I think you can see this is a complex issue, and we all need to really work together, have a bit more time. But I would like to advocate paying closer attention to what the professional consultants that you hired suggested for our town, which actually is very close to other communities such as Gainesville. And I'm confident that we can work something out. I would like to say that it is dangerous to go over and talk to your neighbors. I can say from experience, try to get them to turn things down. That's not a solution. But I am confident that with an ordinance that we can come together. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Phoenix Furman, and then she'll be followed by Vivian Young.
Good evening. I'm someone who is emailing at 2, 3, and 4 in the morning. It didn't start out that way. I've been in my residence since 2011, and I love my home. It's a beautiful home. They built Cascades Park by there now, and we enjoy walking there every night. And I have a beautiful garden. I had a home birth in my home, and I'm not in a position that I just want to move. And in recent years, I felt that way because I did have a baby in 2013, and that's also when a club had opened that's a rooftop club, and the sound traveled down Gaines, and my home is on top of a hill. So as we were talking about hills, and I have woods right next to my house, and the sound would literally penetrate my room, and the majority of it was the bass that was really affecting us. And I was already losing sleep with the baby, and it was really affecting me, and I didn't go straight to the police. I actually went to the owner of the club and said, "Excuse me, maybe you're unaware of this. Can you please turn it down?" And at first it went really well, but then there had been several general managers, and I do want to say that right now the general manager there has been extremely helpful. He helped us out, and we haven't had as many problems. But my concern is that I've been dealing with this for 2 years, and that it's possible that future establishments might open and create the same thing. And I lived in Orlando for about 12 years, and there's a club there, Sky 60. It's a rooftop club, and I'm just thinking that if we even follow some fellow cities' ordinances and some of the numbers that they're using, that we can come to a compromise and that things are going to work out. My concern is that if we keep raising it, that it's going to become legal, and then when it's to the point when we're asking them to turn it down, it's like, well, we don't really have to because this is where the decibels are. So I just wanted to state that as my concern. I enjoy music, but I also really enjoy sleep, and it's imperative. It's very imperative, especially when you have kids. There's school nights that this is going on, and it's waking up. My son is a sound sleeper. He talks in his sleep, but it was waking him up, and that's huge. So that's basically what I wanted to just say as my concern is if the levels go too high, then I'm concerned that then it's going to be legal, that it is okay to be loud. And then what do we do in our homes and how do we get sleep? So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Vivian Young, and then Dave Almquist will follow Ms. Young.
Good evening. My name is Vivian Young, and I live at 411 Oakland Avenue. And I just wanted to focus my comments on how complex sound is, as I've learned over the last few years. And I think there's a tremendous amount of misunderstanding in this community about what an effective ordinance is and what effective levels are. At one of the sound committee meetings held by the city attorney's office handed out a chart with sound levels in ordinances in other communities. And in that, Orlando, Atlanta, Gainesville, Naples, and a number of other communities had citywide sound ordinances with nighttime decibel levels of 55. We're talking about Atlanta and Orlando having citywide noise ordinances with levels of 55. Raleigh, which is hilly like Tallahassee, has a nighttime sound level of 45 decibels. So I wanted to say that because I think when the numbers keep going and up and up, it's very easy to pull numbers out. But if so many major cities are having levels of this, I think it's saying something. Somebody also raised the issue of how decibels increase. And it doubles every 10 decibels. The perception of sound doubles every 10 decibels. So let's say you go for a baseline of 55. You go to 65, that's twice as loud. You go to 75, that's 4 times as loud. You go to 85, that's 8 times as loud. You go to 95, that's 16 times as loud. You go to 105, that's 32 times as loud. So I really don't think that 32 times as loud as the city of Atlanta or Orlando is appropriate for Tallahassee. The other thing that I wanted to say, and I think someone else said it, is that 5 decibels is viewed as intrusive. And Scott talked about the ambient sound level, which is the kind of average sound. And yes, Myers Park did range somewhere between 45 and the low 50s. But I would like to point out that Myers Park, as people keep telling us, is a downtown urban neighborhood. So if you establish the ambient level for the city at that's going to be extremely loud for neighborhoods that aren't as urban as ours, and that's something to take into account as well. I just think it's challenging to look at this issue and just pull numbers out of the hat. It's very easy to get a decibel meter. I've done that. I've measured things. But that's not the way it really works. And when you think about it, there's 2 different issues. There's issues of people having uncomfortably loud noise in their backyard that they don't want to be out there. And then there's also the issue that Phoenix mentioned of uncomfortably loud noise inside your house. And when you have those levels at 12 or 1 or 2 in the morning and you've got kids, you're not happy about it. And I really
your 3
think,
minutes have expired.
Thank you. I really think this is an issue that needs to be addressed scientifically and not by pulling numbers out of a hat. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Dave Almquist, and then Charles Roberts.
My name is Dave Almquist. I live over in Indian Head. I agree with a lot of what was said tonight. I don't really understand the characterization of the noise in this room being acceptable for me to hear in my yard. I really like Led Zeppelin. If I were to play Led Zeppelin this loud so that you were sitting having dinner with your family in your backyard and you could understand every word that was said, I think that would be very disturbing to you if it was this loud. This isn't loud, isn't hurting our ears now, but this would be really loud in your backyard. I also don't like the districts that were put back in, and I don't really understand how they were put back in. And I think plainly audible should be introduced for the next draft of this. Other cities have that. It's a workable thing, it's an enforceable thing, and it's much easier than arguing about 55 or 70 or 110 decibels. Keep the decibels in there, but also have an or plainly audible clause in there. I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Next is Charles Roberts, and then Evanisco Morgan.
I'm Charlie Roberts, and I was born here. I've been playing in a legacy band since 1969, and I think everybody really needs to be, I know you've put a lot of work into this, but to be really careful in trying to define these levels. And I'll give you a great example. Our band used to play Paradise Grill 20 times, and no problems. A few times the police came by. They said, could you turn it down a little bit? We said, sure. We turned it down a little bit. Everybody's great. The apartment complex that was right behind there, which probably had 75, 100 residents, one guy moved in there, and he said it was too loud. And every time thereafter, he'd call the police, and finally we stopped playing there because, so we played there, all the neighborhoods around, the whole apartment complex, over 8 years, never having a problem. But one person comes in there and goes, it's over. So I think it's really important to consider that for the good of the community, we got to find a reasonable balance. The other thing is, if you impose some kind of draconian standard, what about a Florida State football game? You're going to shut down the game? Because trust me, outside that stadium, it's at least 90 to 100 decibels when it's third and goal, and you're playing the Gators. I don't know how loud it is. Inside, it's probably 120 decibels. It's like a jet engine in there. It hurts my ears, and my ears are rock and roll ears. So, last but not least, there's hundreds and hundreds of cars, boombox cars driving around town, and their stereos are at least 100 decibels, and they're sitting right next to you. So if you impose this standard, you're going to have to impose it for all those things. I'm going to call it unintended consequences. So, but I do think that the neighborhoods and the entertainment districts, everybody should work together and give a little bit and go find some reasonable compromise. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay. Mayor, the next speaker is Evanisco Morgan, and then Taylor Jones, and I believe that will be our last speaker on this particular public hearing.
Hello, I'm Megan Evanesco. I live at 2610 McCain Court. I just worry that the sound ordinance is going to hurt the music industry in town. It's cherry picking the things that make noise. In that cars, not a problem. The Florida State game, not going to be a problem because it's a city thing. Anything that has to do with the city is okay to make lots of noise, according to what's proposed. It's just going to hurt local businesses and not the city, which is, hey, that's cool. I like you guys. You're cool. But see, that's very loud. See how loud that was?
Thank you. Sound effect.
The sound decibel meters that the city is going to be using are type 2, and they can range from $300 to $3,000. So are you going to train people to use these meters? Are the police just going to carry these $3,000 possible sound decibel meters around? I think it's just very strange, and I think more time needs to be made before a decision gets made. I don't like talking in front of other people. I'm sorry. Bye.
Thank you very much. Taylor Jones.
Hello, my name is Taylor Jones. I live at 4541 Hickory Forest Circle. I'll just be brief in my comments. Just wanted to say that cities are complex places with many different people living very different lifestyles together, and as a result, you got to learn to live together, and that not everyone's going to be happy about everything. And I just want to second a lot of the comments that people that have already spoken have said, of just about finding a way to work together on this and finding some sort of compromise. But in general, an ordinance such as this is going to affect the way everyone in the city lives. And while tonight there is a very vocal group here that is very motivated about it, not necessarily everyone who feels about this issue and is going to be affected is here or necessarily knows about it. I just want to second the 2-month waiting period about discussing this issue further, and also propose some sort of awareness campaign, or possibly putting it up to a vote across the city so that everyone who has an opinion on this can get heard. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Taylor.
Barry Bumgarner. He had noted he wasn't certain he was going to had any remarks, but
I'm Barry Bumgarner. We have an office at 502 West Jefferson Street. My wife Barbara, who's here with me, we have student apartments downtown. We are part of the downtown area. One of the things that we've talked to some of the commissioners about, haven't had the opportunity to speak to all of you, is that as you're deliberating on how to categorize these various districts, one thing I think you need to remember is that we have residents everywhere. Even though things are zoned downtown, we still have a lot of residents. We have 315 student apartments that we operate that are located next to an entertainment location. Mr. Gilbertson's location. He's here this evening and he's spoken. We understand he's in business and has certain interests he's got, but we've got people that live just a few feet away that are like many of these residents here tonight. They want to be able to sleep, and most of them are students, and they want to study and be able to have enough energy to get up and go to class. So when you're deliberating this, it is a complex and a very thorny issue, but we would just ask you not to consider downtown as being one homogeneous entertainment district. It's not. You've got a lot of people living downtown, and they have the same right to be able to sleep and to be secure in their homes through the intrusion of excessive noise that people in suburban neighborhoods in the community do as well. So that's the comment I would make. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
No other speakers on this item.
Commissioners, to the public, thank you all very much for coming and sharing your views. We completely understand that this impacts all of us in this room and throughout the community. There is a motion, however, on the floor to continue this item until December 9th. Between this time and that time, it's our hope that we'll be able to convene various community input and hopefully emerge a lot closer than where we are today. There was not structure necessarily given to the committee how the committee will be made up, but I do believe Commissioner Miller threw out a few names, and I think there are a number of interested parties that may be interested in sort of engaging further in that. So I want to yield to Commissioner Miller. I think she's the only one in queue before we take a vote.
I think you said, thank you, Mayor. And I hope I didn't hear you say we will convene, because this is going to be, these folks are going to be allowed to work entirely independently of us. And and I would say that some of you who spoke might want to, talk to Mia or Dan Gilbertson and let them know if you want to participate or share your views with them. I think that the less said about the composition, or we need to leave this up entirely to you all. And I feel that you will do just fine without us. So good luck. And those are the non-parameters that I basically put on this. Mia had asked for a mediator, and I don't know how that fits into the picture, but why don't you guys get together and figure out what you need? But I really feel that we're at a point where we brought this as far forward. Now we're just hearing the he said, she said kind of, I mean, the emails, you know, this is 110, 60, 110, 50. You know, everybody has their opinion, and so I would like it really is time for you all to at least talk together and see what if you can share your opinions with each other.
And Commissioner, just a point of maybe an amendment, but to be included, the city attorney suggested that all feedback, however it comes, however loosely defined, be received by the city attorney's office by December 1st in order for an item to be made ready and publicly shared in advance of the December 9th meeting. So if that's acceptable, receive that as part of the motion. Commissioner Maddox.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll be brief. I didn't speak earlier during the deliberation on the motion because I wanted to hear the testimony. But I thought I would put out, just as one commissioner, the things that I would like to see addressed by the committee when you're looking to make a solution. I think there ought to be a urban expectation for urban living. So that's one of the things that I want to put in there, that if you live downtown, there's an expectation that there will be urban noise for downtown. And we all know what our urban core is. I would like to be able to see and I get caught up on these, on the decibel levels, like I'm sure you do, because, you know, I look up a train, and a train is 95 decibels. And I know we got trains going through the middle of neighborhoods all over the place in downtown. And then you think of, you know, regular conversation in here today is at 80 decibels. And then you go back and forth. And like the gentleman that is on the front row that testified, I'm not real sure either on the decibel levels, on what that means. And I think it's sort of up to everyone's different interpretation as to what is tolerable for them. I know you can hear North Florida Christian Band and you can hear Leon Band when they practice across many neighborhoods. So, you know, I would like to see a standard that's probably not as much on the decibel level as on some of the other points. Then finally, what I'd like to see is the ability, and this is a tricky thing, I get it, but the ability to punish the egregious while not allowing the trivial. That's what we're faced with here. So if you have someone that has amplified music enough where it's rattling the dishes in your house and you can't go to sleep at night, I want the mechanism to be able to stop them like we used to be able to through our nuisance ordinance. However, if you got a busybody that's just going to call on everybody, I don't want he or she to be able to do that. And unfortunately, having been up here for a long time, I've seen that. So we put in an ordinance saying that we didn't want people to be able to run businesses out of their homes. It's reasonable. You don't want to allow people to run businesses out of the homes because they're residential areas. Sure, as you can imagine, somebody in the neighborhood complained about the little old lady down the street who was giving piano lessons. And the rest of the neighborhood were fine with the piano lessons, but the one person didn't want the piano lessons. So comes down to the city commission, we got to shut down the lady doing the piano lessons. So you know what we did? We amended the ordinance to say that it's okay to do piano lessons. Sure as heck, somebody complained about somebody doing dance lessons for the neighborhood kids, the girls in the neighborhood. The rest of the neighborhood wanted the dance lessons. The one person didn't want the dance lessons because they don't like the neighbor for some reason, some other reason. So then we were going to have to shut down the dance lessons. So you know what we did? We amended the ordinance to say dance lessons are all right. Then, next thing you know, and a senior citizen is selling tomatoes in his front yard, and a neighbor down the street didn't want the guy selling the tomatoes, goes out there, videotapes it, and comes back and he says, I want him shut down. He shouldn't be able to sell the tomatoes. We amended that ordinance to say that if you're on the corner of a major and a minor intersection, you're over the age of 75 and you've owned your home continuously since 1965, you can sell tomatoes. Look it up. It's there right now. I'd like to be able to avoid that if we can with this ordinance. So give us enough teeth that we can take the bad actors and shut them down where people can get peace and quiet and be able to sleep at night, but not give enough teeth for anyone who feels like they have an axe to grind for whatever reason, can tie up the law enforcement's time, as well as put us into a legal position where we are now the sound police. So that's my hope and best wishes. Like Commissioner Miller says, good luck, and thank you for your willingness to take it on.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any additional comments? Seeing none, I think we all understand the motion on the floor. All those in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no.
No.
Motion passes 4-1. Thank you all. Moving on to item 15.05, second and final public hearing on development agreement concerning Center of Tallahassee. Mr. Manager.
Mr. Attorney.
We don't have any further items to discuss with respect to this development agreement. We've been relatively comment-free from both our planning department, growth management, and our office. I see the representatives of the developer are here to answer any questions. This is the second and final public hearing, so we should appropriately, if there are any members of the public who wish to speak to this, go ahead and do that at this point in time.
All right. Any speakers?
We have two speakers, Mayor. The first is Joanna Money, and she will be followed by Colleen Schuster. Those are the only two speakers I have on this item.
Good evening, Commissioners, Mayor, staff.
Good evening.
My name is Joanna Money. I live at 2304 Charles Court, which is on the corner of North Ride in the Durward subdivision. I am all for redevelopment of the Tallahassee Mall. I think it's fantastic. I work with a bunch of real estate developers myself. I own commercial real estate. I was on the
Sales tax.
I was on the board of the Council on Culture and Art for 7 years. I am for music and culture. What concerns me about the development agreement is that if you read on page 7, line 173 through 176, it says, subject to the terms and conditions stated herein, from the effective date to June 30th, 2017, the test period, the center will be subject to the sound controls as set out in the site plan, and the city will not impose any additional sound controls on the center prior to July 1st, 2017. Then goes on to say there's a period when they can put back a proposal and the city gets 60 days to respond, and then the developer gets 75 days to respond to the city's response, and that's dragging it out over 2 years where there can be any sound mitigation, if I'm understanding what this says. And I'm excited about them being there, but I don't want the city's hands to be tied if there becomes a problem. So that's one issue, if I'm reading that correctly. The second thing is in here, they're only doing a traffic study, page 13, line 357 through 361. In recognition of those special events may have varied attendance, the developer shall conduct a traffic operational analysis on North Monroe Street from John Knox to Allen Road, John Knox Road from North Monroe Street to Truesdale Woodcrest, and Allen from North Monroe Street to the northernmost center entrance by September 1st, 2016. I have 2 little girls, and there are 8 little girls that live within 200 feet of my house, and they're all running back and forth between each other's houses. And I know that there's a lot of people in Waverly with young children who are traveling back and forth. And if Waverly and North Ride and South Ride become thoroughfares for 10,000 people and traffic studies only being done to John Knox at Truesdale, then what are we going to do to help route the traffic another way? So I think that it might be worth taking a look at. And that's all I have to say.
Great. Thank you, Joanna.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Colleen Schuster, And then we have Jenny Myers.
Good evening. I'm Colleen Schuster. I live at 2906 Terry Road in the Wellswood Suburban Hills neighborhood. We back up to the new Center of Tallahassee property, which I'm very excited about. I've toured the site on Sunday, thrilled that there's going to be redevelopment of this blighted area of North Monroe. Something needs to happen, and that there's no city money going toward it, fabulous even more. I echo some of the prior speakers' concerns about the sound during this, quote, test period of 18 months, or June 30th, 2017. While there is language in there in the agreement that the developer will mitigate and work with the city about mitigation, what is the assurance to us as the neighbors that that will really happen, and what is our involvement in that process, or how can we have some comfort level on that? So I've learned a lot about sound. I sat in on the last Citizens Advisory Committee meeting back in August, and that was a real eye-opener. So I'm not going to wring my hands and think that everything's going to be horrible, but I just have this concern, or I guess a giant question mark, about what the impact of this amphitheater will be to our neighborhood. So I just don't know how that process will work to communicate with the city if we're concerned about the noise levels, and the concern that the city cannot impose additional controls for that 18-month period is concerning. We have folks in the neighborhood who think 11 p.m. on weekdays is too late, but then again, if it doesn't really impact us, how do we know? Question mark. We don't know how much it impacts the neighborhood. So there's just so many unknowns about the sound issue, and I would like, if there could be, a sound study done sooner versus later. I know it's proposed within this agreement to occur, but that would answer a lot of questions for us. Or even just say, hey, on Saturday at 10 a.m. we're going to play something at the 96 dB folks, and this is what it's going to sound like. I don't know what, I can't say I don't want this to happen or I'm not against it. It's just, it's a giant question mark. I don't know. And it's a big deal. It's going to impact our city. It's a big project. So, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Commissioner Richardson.
Thank you. I see Mr. Adams sitting there with a big smile on his face. He's the developer.
Sure, yeah.
And I can tell you he's been a very responsive corporate citizen, and I'm sure will be a responsive neighbor. So if there are issues, I don't know that the first place to come would be to the city. I think that he would welcome input from...
And I do have to say that I've been very impressed. Anytime I've called, I've spoken with Peter. He was there on the tour. Excellent folks, very nice, and I appreciate that greatly, and I hope we'll be great neighbors. But you just have to understand, after learning more about sound overall and how complex it is, it's just still a giant question mark of how we really will be impacted. So you just have to understand that issue of what is it going to really be, and knowing that there's 18 months before the city can really make changes to any of the sound ordinance that applies to the project, that's a little concerning. Even though there will be mitigation along the way, it's just the unknown.
I understand. So. Thank you very much. Commissioner Maddox.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just wanted to add in that since my parents live in your neighborhood, I'm sure the city will be involved. Because they will call me if there's a problem, I assure you. We'll all be monitoring it together.
Mayor, we do have one other speaker, if you'd like that speaker this time.
Yes, please.
Okay, that's Jenny Myers, and that's the last speaker I have on this public hearing.
Thank you so much for considering my comments. My mother lives in Parkside. She is 93.5 years old, and she has about 25 heart and lung problems that would be affected by the bass noise from the center proposed sound. The city needs to consider how devastating bass noise is for people who have heart conditions. It was recently found that a teenager in Britain died from bass noise. I beg you to give this your consideration, because my mother has lived there for 60 years, and if she is exposed to this level of sound that you have proposed and agreed to without any review that I can see, then you will be responsible for what happens to my mother. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
These are cascades.
That's the last speaker, Mayor.
All right, Commissioners, and thank you to the public for your comments as well. If there are no additional speakers, this is the second and final public hearing.
Move the item, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to approve. Seeing no other comments, all those in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. Motion passes unanimously. And I do want to echo one of the speaker's comments around the responsiveness of the developer and the team. You all had acoustical experts here the last time we had this item up, and it just so happened that we invited them forward to give some testimony. And one of the things that I was sobered by was the reality that you all are pretty much encased in on three sides, and even on the back side you've got structures there that will help to disrupt the sound. I was also impressed by the acoustical adjustments you will make in the roof and in the walls and on the stage to also absorb as much sound as you can. You all have done this in other places, particularly all throughout the South, where people probably are as concerned about noise as we are here in the city of Tallahassee. And I don't imagine that you will be opening another one of these had your track record on this been so horrible. And so we would just encourage you again to continue to work with the neighbors and continue to provide, I think, the excellent level of responsiveness that you have to the concerns as they have been raised. We are obviously going to continue to monitor this. This will be the largest outdoor amphitheater that exists in this community, and we've got to make sure that we're a good fit for each other. Or I would suspect you all would soon learn from your customers what is acceptable and what isn't. So thanks for your partnership and keep up the good work, Commissioner Miller.
Well, I just wanted to say that. I wanted to say that to some of the folks that spoke that it's in order to book folks to play, you have to book a lot of times as far ahead as a year to a year and a half ahead, and the position of the developer was really, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding was that in order to book those folks, they have to know the conditions they're operating under. I think pretty quickly, none of us know exactly how this is going to be or how it's going to be heard in different parts of town, but the only way, and they've been completely cooperative about trying to work it through, but I think that's where we are now. We're going to get started, and then we're going to work it through. But I did want to bring that up about why that year and a half is there.
Absolutely. Commissioner Ziffer.
Well, I think, I said this last week, and it's Halloween, just about. So what I'm about to do, just understand that I'd like to give them a big hand for all the work that they've done. Anybody, other commissioners like to give a big hand?
That's ridiculous.
Another big hand.
Now punch each other. No, I'm joking.
No, wait. I'll move.
All right.
That was for you, city manager. I see you back there laughing. I see you.
Commissioner, I dare you to give those fists to her and see what she, on her way out, would do with them. Again, thank you. Commissioners, we're now at the portion of the agenda
We
for...
voted? We voted?
We did.
We did. Unanimous.
It was unanimous.
Just making sure.
Yes. Now we are on to unagended speakers.
Sir.
Mr. Treasurer Clerk.
First speaker is Cassima Boston.
This is the...
And again, as each of the other opportunities for citizens to speak, each speaker will have 3 minutes for their remarks, and we'd appreciate your name and address for the record.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Casima Boston, and I am the president of the Tallahassee Food Network Board. I want to talk to you today about something that's called the COP21. On November 30th to December 11th, there will be the 21st session of the Conference of Parties to the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change in Paris, France. COP21 means Conference of the Parties. We are requesting your financial support for the Tallahassee Youth Delegation to the COP21 to travel and participate in the Agenda of Solutions. Around 40,000 people will go, delegates from other countries, observers, and civil society members. It's a crucial conference that will achieve a new international agreement on climate that will be applicable to all countries. The aim is to keep the global warming below 2% Celsius. The agreement reached will be a universal agreement, and there will be a presentation of an agenda of solutions for societies that have been proposed by all of the countries in the world. COP21 involves both state and community representatives from governments, cities, regions, organizations, societies, and all kinds of indigenous people. For COP21, community actions form an important part of the contribution because this will support the decisions of our cities. Finally, we are requesting again your support to send a delegation of 10 Tallahassee youth to COP21 to represent our community and to participate in the Agenda of Solutions. If you need more information, you can feel free to contact me. My email is projectfoodnow@gmail.com, but I would like to entertain a more in-depth conversation with you because the time is of the essence with this particular conference. We have 4 youth that we've been working with over the years and 6 adults that will go along with them from Tallahassee. Great. And that's all. That's the request.
Great. Commissioners, any thoughts on that? I personally would obviously love to see y'all support it, and would love the city manager to see what we can happen to deepen this community's work, particularly on food nexus issues. It's been, as you've known, in fact, Commissioner Miller has led a lot of our work here with the greening of a lot of the community and the community gardens. And what iGrow has been doing, I'm imagining a lot of the youth that you identified would probably come from that group, has been exceptional. So would obviously love to see that continue. Anything else, Commissioners, on this side? Commissioner Miller?
I just wanted to say, I would like for us to contribute to this personally, more than the city's money, but and I would like to talk to you about that after the meeting, as far as I'm concerned. Okay. And I'd like to let you talk to my colleagues also.
Okay, thank you. I did have a PowerPoint of photos of our young people that are planning to go, but for some reason it's not showing here. Yeah. On last weekend, we had our 5th annual Youth Symposium on Food and Hunger. We had over 50 Tallahassee young people come to establish a youth agenda on these issues for the next year. They established that agenda and they put their names on the agenda action items as those responsible for ensuring that the actions are taken out. One of the important conversations and most exciting for the young people was the conversation on climate change and sea level rise. These photos are of our young people at the last 5 youth symposiums on food and hunger, opportunities for policy and change, but also photos of the young people working together to come up with ideas and action items in Tallahassee. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you very much. Next speaker.
The next speaker is Thomas Thiebaud, Nature, and he will be followed by Edward Hollifield.
Commissioners, thanks again for allowing me to speak. I've been presenting these proposals, these designs, and this direction that I'm trying to make happen. This is the only living planet there is that we know exists. And we can experience it with all our sensory organs. Telescope, microscope, binoculars, anything like that. We're not doing everything we can to be in harmony with the system of life. It proves itself to be absolutely perfect, all of its attributes. That's crazy. That's totally insane. It seems like society is doing everything it can to try to direct people away from the system of life. That's an absolutely perfect system. No question about it. Okay? If you don't believe it, then look at the facts of the attributes. Everything new again. New air, new water, new plants, new soil, more of its own kind. Okay? You can't go wrong with that system. And it gives you the ability to create that which created it. Gives a factual understanding how to create that which created the system. Now, you can't get better than that. That's an absolute security. That's the reason I say that I am the creator. I've got that knowledge. I got the same knowledge that Jesus had, how to create himself. He said, I am, I was, I'm yet to come. I am today. I've gained the knowledge how to create myself was. Absolute security for the future. Okay? I don't know why Jesus said that when the owner of the plantation comes home, he kills every single person. Okay? He kills all the workers. I don't want to see that happen. Okay, but it seems like that mankind isn't going to accept the system of life at all. It seems like they aren't going to accept the Creator. They're going to accept God with His attributes and with His direction and in His way. They're willing to let the fire, the conditioning of mankind, to destroy their existence. And I don't want to see that happen. But there's not much I can do about it. It seems like. The fire is so strong you have no idea how conditioning mankind is to allow people to direct people off that cliff blindly. These proposals I'm submitting to make paradise happen for real, no belief. Bring mankind in perfect harmony system of life, plants, animals, air, water, soil. I just told somebody the other day that a lot of times I come across newspapers, right when I need them, they just happen to present themselves. Bank of America, I took that bank on because I wanted a Bank of America. With this path that I've been on for 25 years, I wanted Bank of America. This path that has given me the security of existence, the plateau of the Creator. I want a Bank of America with that path. The newspaper, with Biden stepping down from presidency, it was on the front page of that newspaper. When I looked in that trash, I grabbed it out. I want to take his place. I would like to get word to his constituents or to his party for them to talk to me in detail, in factual detail, and let me prove what I say is true.
Excuse me, your time has expired.
I can make this planet a paradise in two terms. First term, it'll be obvious, it'll be there. Second term, this planet would be perfect, and I can stop death. I proved already how to regrow limbs in 2000. Okay, not belief, fact.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Next speaker.
Next speaker is Edward Hollifield. And he'll be followed by Sandra Sherrard.
Hollifield, Longleaf Court. Racist behavior by the city of Tallahassee towards its black population is nothing new. Blacks were required to pay a city utilities tax to build Tallahassee Memorial Hospital. After the hospital was built, blacks were told that they could not go there. This continued from 1947 until 1967, when the federal government told CEO M.T. Mustin and board chair Mallory Horn that the hospital had two choices. It could admit black patients and appoint black doctors to the staff, or the feds would close it down. Who knows how many black people died because TMH would not admit them? More racist behavior by the city and the state led to the closure of the FAMU Hospital. Christmas Eve, 1971. After only 20 years of operation, the hospital was a landmark in the black community and should never have been closed. Now there is the Bond Community Health Center, one of the few remaining icons in the black community. It was created by black doctors when the needs of poor black patients were largely ignored. Now the city and the county have marked bond for destruction, as well as neighborhood health service in Frenchtown. It will be destroyed by tax money being used in part to finance Big Ben Cares. Big Ben Cares don't care if you don't have health insurance. In that way, it is no different from Patients First. Big Ben Cares will skim off the paying patients with insurance, leaving Bond and neighborhood to take care of patients with no insurance. This is a blueprint for destruction of Bond and neighborhood. They cannot survive as a result of the preferential treatment being given to Big Ben Cares by the city and the county. Even United Way gives money to Big Ben Cares, despite the fact that Big Ben Cares will not see patients who don't have health insurance, and will no longer focus on treating patients with HIV. And there are 47,000 people, or 19% of the population in Leon County, with no health insurance. Even the land that Big Ben Cares has purchased is problematic. It is full of lead, asbestos, and stuff that people have never even heard of, such as benzoapyrene, which contaminates the soil. Benzoapyrene is a known cancer-causing agent. Finally, the city charges neighborhood clinic $3,745,000 a month for the use of buildings that neighborhood uses to take care of its patients. Between October 1st, 2000 and January 1st, 2015.
Excuse me, your 3 minutes have expired.
Yeah, 30 seconds. Neighborhood Health Service has paid the city a total of $420,822.45 for the use of these buildings. Meanwhile, TMH gets to use land valued at $6,607,617 for $1 a year. TMH is overwhelmingly white, with only 2 black senior administrators having been hired in 67 years of operation. Neighborhood Health Service is overwhelmingly black, and therein lies the difference in treatment by the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Next speaker is Sandra Sherrard. She is speaking to item 1504, is aware that you took up the item previously, but was not able to be here previously, so she will speak at this time.
I had planned to leave work by 5:30 and be here at 6. I understand I missed the hullabaloo about noise control. I have one comment to make about what I think most people are concerned about, and that is events. And I think we need to be, as a society, gracious and generous. And knowing that events have a beginning and an ending, that we can tolerate what might be an unusual source of, I don't even want to say noise, but perhaps din. And I just think that we need to be very careful about that. My issue about noise is something that is very real, I find very disruptive, and that is what I call four-wheeled boom boxes. And as a matter of fact, I had to stop beside one on my way here. It is not just about the ears. The noise that comes from those machines is at a decibel level where music is no longer music but noise. And as a matter of fact, it is detrimental. It is far beyond hearing, but it's deleterious to the body itself because it interferes with the natural pulsations of the body. And there is research done on this. As a matter of fact, the Chicago police, I understand, use certain types of machines to control crowds based on noise machines or sound machines. When someone is driving in a car where you can hear it a block away, you know that they are not a safe driver. When they are near enough to another driver, they are disruptive, or the noise is disruptive. There's also an attitude that is it's negative, let's say. And I think that's part of it. I'm not quite certain that I understand why. But in various periods, we've had radios, portable radios, transistors, other instruments of that nature that intrude on everyone's peace and quiet and on everyone's musical tastes. But in this case, as I said, I feel there's a danger, plus the fact that the people who drive those machines, when they stop for gas, on one occasion left the door open, and when I closed the gentleman's door, he threatened to call the police. I begged him to, but he didn't. When I stop my car and turn it off, my radio is still playing, but the moment I open my door, the radio goes off. So if their radio is on, it means that...
Excuse me, your 3 minutes have expired.
Their engine is running, and they're pumping gas into their car. So there are a number of issues related to danger, and I just find no reason for allowing it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Commissioner Miller.
Thank you. I especially want to thank you, mainly because I really would love for you to go to the legislature and tell them just what you told us. I mean, I find it very, very offensive, and I understand what you're saying about the attitude when somebody is doing that. Unfortunately, the state legislature has made it, they've preempted us and told us that we are not allowed to regulate sound that is coming out of a vehicle. That would be a question for them. I can't possibly have any idea why.
If I hear anyone using the excuse of the First Amendment,
excuse me,
I'll deal with that. But that is probably what's behind it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Next speaker.
There are no further speakers tonight, Mayor.
Other speakers, commissioners, for the good of the order.
I think we're good to...
Well, I just want to mention one thing.
I did have one.
Yes.
During the presentation that Ms. Williams gave with the Housing Authority, I can't recall who brought up the issue, but I wanted to ask if we could make the request to the legislature for funding. And in talking with Jorge, there are some options that we make that a part of our legislative agenda.
Agreed. Without objection?
I think we did.
We should double check it just to make sure, but if not, I think, and I don't hear any objection. I mean, I think that makes sense.
And homeless issues and things like that, so yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And commissioners, I know you received I believe a leaflet that highlighted some of the events that Family First Week is beginning at the end of this week, where a number of providers who work with children are doing a couple of events. I just want to note that this Friday, families who are interested in coming to get a free developmental screening for their child can do so this weekend, this Friday. Whole Child Leon will be hosting this. It's a biannual event that they do, and they'll be testing for vision, hearing, motor skills, speech, language, other cognitive behavior, growth, and dental. It's about an hour screening per child, and we encourage folks to take advantage of that. The Early Learning Coalition of the Big Bend will also host its second annual Race for Readiness. That's going to be on Saturday in their parking lot, which is the old state building there off of Monroe Street. And obviously it's to bring additional focus to literacy. On November 4th at 1 p.m. in the City Commission chambers, the FSU College of Medicine and the National Black Church Initiative and our office will host First Words Autism Navigator briefing, and that'll be for various experts in the field. FSU College of Medicine has developed new resources and tools focused on early childhood development for families and professionals. And again, that'll be hosted here in the chamber next week, November 4th at 1 p.m. And then last but not least, Family First Week will culminate on November 7th from 10 a.m. until 2 p.m. on Clayman Plaza here behind City Hall, where there will be a number of service providers, the Bond Community Health Center, Early Learning Coalition, Who We Play For, and an expo which will bring together local partners to give a snapshot of available resources for children and families in this community. And so that's a week of events that begins this Friday with free screenings and ends next week Saturday with this family expo.
Where are the free screenings?
Free screenings will take place at, you have to register in advance. I'm sorry, I wasn't given that information. Where do we register at? CommunityPAC.org.
Can you all email us that information?
We absolutely can. We'll email it to you so you can shoot out that information for folks. Anything else for the good of the order? Seeing none, we stand in adjournment.
Have lost productive time or suffered frustration because of the lack of air service to Tallahassee. Just about everybody. Is Commissioner Maddox here? He's coming up. Well, we think that the capital of the third largest state in the nation deserves better than that, and fortunately our city officials and the Tallahassee